And welcome into Hoopsville, everybody, on a Thursday evening. Technical difficulties causing us to get on the air a little bit late. Apologize for those. Thank you for sticking with us. We certainly appreciate it. First and foremost, want to apologize also for not being on the air Wednesday for our selection special, or I should say our rankings special. Bit under the weather this week. I got slammed with some kind of illness. Really don't show what. Still have it, but certainly feel better than I have the last few days. But we will thank a sport drink manufacturer. I think I've drank more of this in the last few days, or these kinds, than I have since I was a college athlete. It has been a little bit crazy for the last few days. I'm still a little under the weather, so our energy level may be a little bit lower. Bear with us, but we appreciate you tuning in. Again, apologize for our delay getting on the air. That is our production trouble. Have we mentioned, by the way, our fundraiser? We are 22% of the way to our goal, and we technically only have 5 days left. What's the dealio, folks? This is our last push. We may extend it, but please don't bet on that. It is important to us, and we hope you'll consider helping us out. We'll talk plenty more about it. Certainly going to make a big push, but there's plenty to talk about in Division 3. Of course, if you have questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can join us on Facebook, where we're live streaming tonight's show, simulcasting, I should say. Hoopsville, facebook.com/Hoopsville is how you can get a hold of us. Again, our fundraising efforts, 22% of the way to the goal. We hope you'll consider helping us out. Got a big jolt in the arm the other day, or earlier today. I want to thank the person who knows themselves very well for that. We'll just find out later if we can actually mention them. At the same time, a reminder that this we've been also told a few others who plan to donate. We just have not received the funds as of yet. Technically, it runs through Tuesday night, we believe, but we hope that people will donate in the meantime. A lot of broadcasts. We'll be on the air a couple hours tonight, and then we'll be on the air extensively on Sunday. Looks like we will be hitting the air at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday to do selections. Due to me being basically sidelined for about 2.5 days, almost 3 days, we're a little bit behind, but we will get that show put together here in the next 24 hours or so. We have some good ideas. We just got to see if people can join us. The problem is obviously getting a hold of people now a little bit more last minute. Literally, I have not been that wiped out by something in a very long time. I am not one who gets the flu, and I kid you not. However, I don't know if it is the flu or some other virus, to be blunt. We just don't know is the reason I say that. Yeah. It leveled me is what I'm trying to get at. And I had no energy, and I still have no energy. So this show's going to be a little bit more low-key, but it's caused us also to be just a little bit late to the party, as it were. Guest tonight, going to be a little bit less than we normally have. Andrew, good to see you. Our guest tonight will be the Union men's basketball coach. He'll be coming up here in a few short minutes. First conference tournament championship game appearance in 11 years. They defeated St. Lawrence in double OT, part of a Liberty League chaos last night. Skidmore also losing. What was really interesting in Skidmore's case is in the East, they jumped to third place in the region thanks to a 6-1 results versus regionally ranked opponents. Problem is that loss could hurt them. I don't think the East is as strong as everybody thought. Remember I said Oswego was looking at maybe moving into second if they hadn't lost last week? They fell to fifth. Brockport fans are probably like, oh, we beat Oswego. Why are we behind? Well, you split with Oswego. So that's why you're still behind them. Got another contribution. Did I just see that right? Got a contribution to the campaign. Let's see here. I had a suggestion from someone to suggest when someone has, or mention when someone has donated, if they do it during the show. And so we will do so. Thank you, Ken Gibbons. A small but very helpful donation. We appreciate it. I can see that you may be able to notice a shot in the arm we got earlier today. I want to thank my family for that. But thank you, Ken Gibbons, for donating to the cause. Really appreciate that. Back to the Liberty League. So we'll talk to Union's head coach here in about 5 minutes. Talk to him about the big win over them. Another big game, if you did not... we'll also talk to the winner of the CAC semifinal between Salisbury and York, Pennsylvania. That game has just gotten underway. We will certainly keep track of scores tonight. We'll also talk to James Wagner out of the Atlantic region and Seesack. Seesack had an exciting night last night. We'll talk to him. And basically we'll answer your questions, and I'll take advantage of what we didn't do on Wednesday and kind of go through rankings and talk about rankings, talk about the top 25, make early ideas of what we think Pool C-wise or what we think early indications for hosting maybe. Not real dead set. Me being sick again for 2 days literally took me out of pocket. I did not open up a computer. I barely had my phone open. Got another contribution. This is awesome. Now, this is how we do it, folks. Thank you so much. Let's see who this one was from. Oh, this one's anonymous for $30. Whoever donated anonymously for $30, thank you so much. So tonight's a chance to really talk about what we see coming. Kind of pay attention to some scores going on. Obviously, everything's just starting to get underway. The sales in Delaware Valley delayed yesterday from one of the craziest stories you will hear. A squirrel bit through a power line on Delaware Valley's campus, delaying their men's game. Everyone was there. It looks like they were trying to get it going. It didn't work out. It ended up getting delayed. To today. They played it at 5:30 for some reason. Keep an eye on this one. It does not look like it's going to go Delaware Valley's way. Well, it's not. 1:50 left, and DeSales is winning 73-49 in this game. Feel bad for Delaware Valley, whose season has been tremendous. Mark Sonnenberg, the head coach, brand new head coach, first time ever head coach, did a tremendous job there, but the team was 0 for 12 from beyond the arc in the first half. They're 3 for 25 for the game. They're shooting 33%, while DeSales is shooting 48%. By the way, DeSales are just shooting 56% from the free throw line. Don't worry, Del Valley's shooting 44%. They may go find that squirrel. By the way, there's nothing left of that squirrel. That squirrel is done. There is a picture, and then there was a picture of the shrine to the squirrel. Knocked off, powered about half the campus, including that crazy game there. We'll keep out of track of other games. We mentioned the Salisbury-York game early in that one. It is 15-11 with 10:07 left. Salisbury the lead. There are some finals that have come in. Guilford got past Hampton-Sydney in the ODAC tournament, so Guilford moves on to the semifinals, which is good for Guilford. They need that. Guilford's sitting... Forgive me. Guilford's sitting now third in the regional rankings. Hardin-Simmons moved up to first. Emory second, Guilford third. Kind of tells you just there's no strength in that region this year. Texas Dallas got past Mary Hardin Baylor. Virginia Wesleyan got past Lynchburg, 102-93. Hardin-Simmons got past East Texas Baptist. That's good for Hardin-Simmons. And Methodist got past Greensboro earlier today. By the way, Maryville passed Piedmont, 87-69. So we'll keep a track of those other scores. In women's basketball, already a final day, Mary Hardin Baylor passed Laterno, 96-68. We'll keep track of some other games. Big game, Mary Washington versus Marymount going on right now in women's CAC action. Marymount on the road, lead by 3 with 9:54 left to go in the second quarter. We'll keep track of all these other games as well. So yeah, that's what we've got going. And we'd love to talk more, but due to our getting on the air a little bit late here tonight, we're going to take our break now and get to Andrew, I will get to your, if you don't mind holding up, Andrew, I want to get to my Union guest. We're going to talk to him, and then we will talk about hope for you. Just do me a favor. I don't want to assume who you're talking about. You've been asking me about men in the past. I want to confirm you're talking about men or women or both. So just confirm that with me, and we will get to that in a bit. If you got any other questions, you know how to get a hold of us. Email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. Facebook us or join us on the Facebook chat room. Hey, Jay Cozen, contribution is forthcoming. Do you know how to check what teams put in for the ECAC playoffs? Jay, I'll get to that question in a little bit as well. Thank you for the kind words about the donation. We certainly appreciate that as well. I got to find a way to be able to see this post a little bit better. Anyway, I'm going to take a break. Like I said, Union's basketball coach will be on the show here momentarily, and we'll talk to him about their big upset, and we'll also talk to him about other things going on in the East region. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. Plenty more Hoopsville ahead. We have tons of time to answer your questions. We do want to get to this coach, and then we're going to have about an hour or so to talk with breaks, but talk before we have our next serious guest on, though Wags will join us as well. So fire your questions our way. Send your contributions our way. Trust me, they make a difference. This computer needs to go to the shop. If I hadn't been sick, it would have been to the shop this week. That's why we were delayed getting on the air. We'll be back with more Hoopsville after this.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Defining moments. Championship dreams. Share the experience with your family and friends. The 2017 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 17th and 18th at the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia. Visit ncaa.com/tickets for your tickets today.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville and hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville. Andrew, I saw your questions about hope. Trust me, bud, I will get to those questions right after this segment. Just bear with us. I know there's other questions on the chat room as well, or on Facebook at least. We will certainly try and follow those as much as we can as well. Again, tweet us questions, email us questions. We'll answer your questions. I have a couple of questions coming up, I know, for the Hoopsville mailbag segment that we will get to. Lots of good stuff on the show. So again, conference weekend. Oh, thank you, Alan Karen, with a little link there to help out Jay on ECAC Sports. Very easy and very nice of him to do that. So we talked about the East region, and we talked about the conference championships and the chaos that it can provide, and the risk it can then provide, and the excitement it can provide. If you weren't paying attention to the Liberty League, St. Lawrence and Skidmore in position to maybe get at large bids. Skidmore jumping to number 3 in the East region, St. Lawrence sitting at number 4. looked pretty good. Both get to the championship game, got a pretty good chance. The problem is Hobart and Union also were playing in those games, and they had their own opinions about how things should play out. In Union's case, it was, well, we feel like getting back to the championship for the first time in 11 years. Do you mind if we play through? And in the case of Union, they played through all right, beat St. Lawrence by 2 in double overtime. I'm not making this stuff up, and this is why Championship Weekend is so great. And joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline is their head coach, Chris Murphy from Union. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Dave, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate all that you guys do for promoting D3 basketball, and I just think last night was just a typical example of why it is so great. It was as good a game as any as I've been a part of.
Well, first and foremost, it's one of those where, we're trying to keep track of what's going on around the country, and all of a sudden someone says, hey, Skidmore lost to Hobart. I'm like, oh, wow, that's a pretty tough loss. And then immediately later, someone goes, did anybody see the Union score? And at about that point, I'm starting to feel better from this illness I have. I felt my fever come back because I realized, oh, no, this means more work on Sunday. Because this is the reason we love it, but it also throws so many monkey wrenches into it. Your guys had to have been hyped, but as that game goes on and on and on, I always feel overtime games start to play in the hands of the home team. How did you guys stay focused? How did you guys stay amped, knowing knowing you had them, but at the same time not losing it?
I think it starts with our senior leadership. We have a group of 4, technically 5 seniors that have been playing for us as freshmen, and they've been through some tough experiences, some highs, getting off to a good start their sophomore year, winning the NYU tournament, beating Rochester back-to-back years, their sophomore, junior year. To, that sophomore year, we struggled in league. We thought we were pretty good, and we ended up going 4-12 in conference. Last year, we got off to a 1-5 start, needed another Deshaun Burgess miracle to upset Rochester, and then we went on a little run and ended up getting the 2nd seed in conference, and St. Lawrence came down to our place and knocked us off. So, I think Deshaun Burgess, Wade McNamara, Zach Booten, Shiraz Montaz, and Kevin Weckworth, 5 guys that were going to keep the ship steady. And they all played different roles last night, some on the court, some kind of leading the bench mob, as our guys call it. But, I joked around with a couple of other coaches in our department today. I just kind of sat down and got out of the way. At the end of regulation, we had the ball with 8 seconds left, and I called timeout and tried to set up a play to get Deshaun a touch, and Chris Downs he made sure that he didn't get it back. So in the second overtime, when we secured the rebound down 1. My assistant's telling me, hey, you got a timeout left. You got a timeout left. I'm standing there, and Deshaun has the ball, and I'm just thinking, well, I'm going to probably throw it to Deshaun anyway, so I might as well let him go right now. And, lo and behold, he made a play. And that's what last night was. It was, a lot of seniors, in St. Lawrence's case, a junior, Riley Niclario, just guys making play after play. And, it was just an incredible game, and I'm glad we came out on the winning end of it. But I have just so much respect for Chris Downs and his seniors, Kyle Edwards, Willie Zachary, and Kyle Kobus. Those guys are warriors, and it was a game that I told Chris I don't think either team deserved to lose.
Yeah, unfortunately, those are the kind of games that me as a fan, it's one of two things. You don't want to see either team lose. Nothing against your players. You almost want another overtime because you're just too excited watching it.
You did, but I couldn't have taken one, I don't think.
I know. I realize that. But, you point out, again, obviously they had fouls to give, tied at 102 because they fouled you guys. Or us. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong spot here. You guys late in the half had a couple fouls to give. They fouled you a bunch of times. Yep. And then you called that timeout, and then Boughton hit tried to take the shot and missed it with 2 seconds. Then the first overtime, you guys again got the last look after they had a look that missed with 3 seconds left. And then you guys got that final look. So it's really interesting that you really got 3 looks at it at the end of every point, as it were, to try and win it, on top of the fact that they had 2 out of the 3 chances, had a shot themselves to ice the game. It really was a back and forth affair. This one really wasn't kind of dictated by anybody except maybe in the first half where you led by 8 at halftime.
Yeah, we got off to a tremendous start. One of the things that we've been preaching all year as a team is just be playing your best basketball in February, the end of February, when it matters the most. And, we had a little bit of I think we won 7 out of 8. And then we had a little speed bump against RPI and Skidmore. We lost McNamara for those 2 games. Skidmore's tough. Skidmore, I think, they shot 70% from 3 or 80% from 3 in the second half against us. And, RPI played well. So, we hit a little speed bump, but then coming back against RIT with McNamara healthy the last weekend of the regular season, we played very well on the offensive end, sharing the basketball, carried that over, I thought, to Sunday, the final game of the regular season against Hobart. And then first half, I think we assisted on 11 of our 20 makes, which for us is good. We go off the dribble a lot. And then overall, I think we had 27 assists last night and 3 turnovers. I've never seen or heard of a stat like that. And I think part of it is because they played zone, but the other piece is that, our guys are really clicking right now, I think. And on the offensive end, I find when guys are in the flow and playing well, you don't have to call a lot of sets because our regular motion is allowed to create open looks. And I didn't really call that many sets last night. It was guys just playing, making reads, and you look at some of the stat lines. There's not really, out of 27 assists, I think we had 3 guys with 4, 1 guy with 5, and 1 guy with 6. It's nobody's dominating the ball, everybody's sharing it, and oftentimes one of my mentors told me that the ball often finds the best player on the court, and last night with Deshaun, it seemed like it did. Our guys knew to get him the ball in the right places, and he stepped up and made some big shots, including the last one.
The box score, there's a couple quirks in this box score. First off, they shot 57% from the floor. You shot 47%. You shot 51% from beyond the arc, 19 of 37. They only were 9 of 21. They shot 92% from the free throw line. You shot 58%, 7 of 12. They out-rebounded you by 8. Yeah, you had an incredible assist numbers, 27 to just those 3 turnovers. They had 14 assists to 13 turnovers. There's all kinds of things in this box score that do not talk about a winner.
No, figure that one out.
Yeah.
Some of those numbers that you mentioned, they took, I think, 11 more free throws than we even attempted, which is a stat that we look at. And, I look at the total number of shots that we took, though. One of the important things for us has been taking care of the basketball and then trying to turn teams over. I think part of we took 90 total shots. They took 67. I think part of the difference is attributed to the free throw number that they took. But also, when you look at our offensive rebounds, like we had 12 offensive rebounds. They had 6. So I think we created a couple extra possessions for ourselves there. And then turning them over 13 times and ourselves only turning it over 3, that's 10 extra possessions there. So, where they may have shot a little bit better percentage than us, we didn't have to be as perfect because we created a couple more possessions for ourselves. And also it was one of those wacky games where, I think you could have made a case just looking at the stat sheet. St. Lawrence looks like they were the team that won that game if you couldn't see the score, but it was quite a night.
All right, so the typical question is, how do you get these guys ready for Saturday's game? Now, it's a little quirky because you're literally taking on the other team that did the exact same thing you did in Hobart, who knocked off Skidmore. So both of you are coming in kind of in the same boat. to be blunt, I wouldn't be surprised if the first half was ugly because both teams are like, oh, okay, we've already kind of wasted our ammunition on the emotional side of things. So how do you get the guys focused and refocus on Saturday's game? I know they're ready for it because they're excited, but I mean, how do you go, guys? No, really, you got to come out ready.
Right. I think the first thing you do is show them film of Colin Doherty, Jamal Lucas, Tucker Lesko, and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's going to be a challenge to stop." But I think you lean on your seniors. I think you lean on your veterans. There's an excitement around campus right now. Being able to, we didn't necessarily anticipate that we were going to be able to host the game, but
yeah.
I think use that excitement, and you also channel their energy because they have excitement too, and they're a little worn down today, but we had a good practice, but channel that energy, channel that excitement, and just focus on whatever's right in front of you. And for us today, it was a film session and then getting on the court for a little bit, and how did we get better today? And yeah, of course, they're 18 to 22-year-old kids. I'm sure a little part of them is thinking about this Saturday and the opportunity there. But, I think our guys have done a good job of staying in the moment the last, month and a half of the season and just reminding them. And then, it's nice when you hear some of your leaders doing the same thing, saying, guys, hey, we got to be better in this drill. And, I think that's how you try and get guys refocused or recentered. But I think the best way is how I let off. Just show what Hobart's capable of. I mean, you look at they don't have a soft loss on their schedule. When you look at who they've played against and some of the teams that they've beaten, I think they have a great win against Brockport. They have a win against Scranton. Their losses are twice to Skidmore, once to St. Lawrence. They went out to Worcester and Ohio Wesleyan, had tough ones there. I think Rochester and St. John Fisher. I hate to say it. I think the softest loss is us. This year. So, and Tim is such a good coach. I've known him for a while. He's someone I admire in this profession. So he's going to have them ready. It's going to be a battle, and it's going to be two really good teams competing. And I know I can't wait.
Let's talk about your team quickly. The next five guys I'd point out are going to be seniors for anybody paying attention at home. Deshaun Burgess, if no one's paying attention, they aren't paying attention to the East region. 19.3 points a game, 7.1 rebounds a game, almost 3 assists per game. Also has 21 blocks and 26 steals. Wade McNamara, 15.9 points a game, 10.2 rebounds. It's nice to have a double-double when you average it. 2 assists a game on top of that, 28 steals as well. 10.4 points both. Greg King and Kevin Weckworth, and Zachary Bounton, I bring him up because he's a senior, 6.1 points a game. Also the second highest on the team at 2.5 assists a game, including the assist on the game winner last night. I know Union has not been where probably you would love it to be, but these seniors have certainly invested a lot in this squad. It's obviously great to get this win, but as you've indicated, they've got more on their plate. They got more on their plate, don't they?
Oh yeah, with that group, Greg's actually he's the only junior. The other 4 guys are seniors. They're focused on bringing Union back another championship right now. It's crazy to say, but the last time that Union was in a championship game, I was a starting point guard. As scary as that might be, and 2004-05 season, we went out to Hobart. It was at the same site. We played a Friday, Saturday, and we knocked off Hobart. We were the 4 seed. Hobart was 1. Knocked off Hobart in the first round, and then we beat Hamilton in the final. And then the next year was the last time that Union has been in the championship game of the Liberty League. So it has been a while, but those 4 seniors and Greg too, he's been with us for 3 years. They've been building towards this, and last year being the 2 seed and getting a taste of the conference tournament, and also understanding how difficult it is to win, no matter who you're playing against in conference play. Just like I spent some time in the UAA as an assistant with Emory, and having an appreciation for the different conferences and how challenging they can be. You have to bring it every night, and you have to be consistent every night, or else you can get knocked off. And I think those seniors have really committed to that, and that's kind of shown. We got off to a 1-3 start, had a couple tough losses to St. Lawrence and Skidmore, and then Clarkson got us an OT. Started to start off 1-3, and then those guys kind of said, along with a few others, that's not how our senior year is going to go down. And then I think we rattled off 7 of the next 8, and had a couple pretty good wins at the last weekend over RIT, and then Hobart, and then that barn burner last night. I can't give those guys enough credit.
Obviously, you mentioned earlier games coming home. You get a chance to play at home where it's been good to you, though it's also been challenging. You did play 3 of the last 4 games at home after a 5-game road trip. The excitement's got to be pretty palpable on Union's campus.
Yeah, I came back to a bunch of congratulatory texts and emails and calls from a lot of people on campus. We had an event today, the Union Founders Day, which our guys all attended. A lot of our athletes attended, and the president of school gave us a little bit of a shout out. And there's definitely an excitement. It had been building and building and building, and we hope we have a great crowd. There's definitely a buzz for athletics at Union. With 2 years ago with the hockey national championship, and our baseball team back to back, and have Jake Fishman, who's a major league baseball player, minor league baseball player now, but was drafted, and there's a strong athletic tradition here, and the basketball program as well. And we've been down for a couple of years, but we're back, and I think Saturday's a great chance to really make a statement for that. But it's gonna be a challenge. Hobart's great, and Hobart. I'm sure they want, Tim. This is his 3rd season, and I'm sure he wants to make a statement as well. After Hobart not making the tournament last year, and they're used to making it, so it's going to be 2 really good teams duking it out.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us to talk about the incredible win, obviously for the program, but certainly just to make things interesting across the country.
Heck yeah.
And I know St. Lawrence and Skidmore are both cursing the names of Hobart and Union today.
I can tell you who else is my guy Jason.
Sure.
Yeah.
He sees that bubble get a little bit tighter for him, didn't he?
But it's it's just interesting to see. So much can still happen, and
sure.
Obviously, I think our league in the East this year, I don't know every crossover game, but I did see that St. Lawrence, I think, split with Brockport and Oswego, but they were both on the road. I know Hobart got Brockport. So, I think our league in the SUNYAC and in Empire 8 with St. John Fisher this year is, tough too. But seeing St. Lawrence and Skidmore, St. Lawrence 3 times, Skidmore twice, I can't really speak to any other teams that are sitting on the bubble right now. But I see 2 teams that are really deserving. But, a lot of it comes down to just, what the numbers look like. And, I wish those 2 guys the best. Obviously, pulling for them in the league to pull in an at-large.
Well, it's certainly impressive. It doesn't matter in the long run for you guys. You knew you just wanted to go out there and win. I certainly am impressed. Congratulations on getting it done. Good luck on Saturday against Hobart. That might be one of those rare games that I want to watch just for the fun of it. A lot of games I'm watching for many different reasons, but just to enjoy it, I'm looking forward to maybe tuning into yours. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Dave, just thank you for all that you do for Division III basketball, Division III sports in general. There's just so many great stories out there at our level to be told, and it's kind of one of the last true bastions of student athletes. And I think you just do an incredible job, and I know our players love it and they follow it, and just can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Coach. Good luck, as I said, and we'll hopefully be talking about Union in the future as well.
Sounds good, Dave. Thanks so much.
Yep, take care, Coach. Chris
Bye.
Murphy joining us here on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline. That might be one of the few coaches, and it's probably not the only time this has happened, but it just kind of dawned on me. One of the few coaches I'm talking to who was playing when Hoopsville was most certainly on the air. That's interesting. We're getting to that point with this program. 14 seasons and 17 years. So appreciate Coach coming on the show. Congratulations to them. Could the Liberty League get 3 teams in the tournament? I'm not saying it's impossible. It's definite. I think last week's regional ranking, I wish I could have had more time to look through the regional rankings yesterday with you on a show. But the fact that Skidmore is 3 and St. Lawrence is 4, Skidmore is now 19-7. That's where they may become problematic. St. Lawrence is 20-6. We're getting into some interesting areas that maybe that's possible. Maybe, just maybe, it's possible Liberty gets 3 teams in. We've been talking about the possibility of the NESCAC getting 5. It's gonna get really nitty-gritty in the end. By the way, we talked about Emory. Emory came out of nowhere and jumped to 2nd in the region. Strong SOS. The UAA and the NESCAC have strong SOS numbers. Emory's a great example of jumping into the mix. Though at the same time, I'm going to tell you, I don't think the South is that strong. And if Emory loses to Rochester, now they're 17-8. I don't think that really does it for them, in my opinion. At a 680, we saw Rochester take a seat with a similar record last year. So this is going to be interesting, but congratulations to Union and congratulations to Hobart nonetheless. Going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get our friend James Wagner on the line, talk about the Seesack and the craziness in the Seesack. Don't forget, still coming up, we're going to talk to either Salisbury or York, the winner in the CAC semifinals men's basketball game. That's coming up. Before we go, though, I got a question about about Hope men and women's basketball. And what do I think about tomorrow night? We'll start with the men. Let's just look quickly on the men's regional rankings-wise in the Great Lakes. Hope sitting still at 3rd, which I think is good for them. They play Alma. Remember, they beat Alma by 5 on the road, and they beat Alma back in the middle of January by 11 at home. It is the MIA tournament. And Hope's coming off a tough loss to Calvin in the last game of the season in overtime. Personally, I think Hope comes in a little bit fired up. That could be a good loss for them, as it were. I think Hope men get there. I think if Hope men get to the championship game, they're completely safe. I think they're relatively safe to get in the tournament anyway. But getting to the championship game will be key. Alma is one of their toughest competitors, obviously. Calvin's sitting on the other side. But I think the men will probably prevail, though. Alma has been a disappointment this year. I don't think a lot of us voters realize just how much they lost. We knew how much they lost. They lost more than we thought they lost. But they're still a well-coached team and a tough team, but I think the men come out of that. Women, I'm a little concerned about. They played Calvin twice this year. Throw the game in November 30th completely out the door. A 21-point win on November 30th really means nothing at this point. Remember, they beat him in overtime on February 1st, 63-55. Hope beat Calvin. Calvin's needs to win this to stay in the conversation in the NCAA. If you look at the Great Lakes, they're sitting 8th regionally ranked-wise with a weak SOS. I don't see really at 5-6 in the Great Lakes. Trine Rose-Holman, 7's Carnegie Mellon. That's about where my bubble line is. Calvin's below that. I mean, I think they're going to get stuck behind Carnegie Mellon, and I don't think Carnegie Mellon gets in at 18-7 at best. They might. I could be dead wrong on that. But I think they get stuck back there. So Calvin's got to win. So Hope's playing a team who's going to be a little bit desperate here. I'm a little worried about the women. I think Hope women are in. I don't see a reason. They're sitting third in the region. I don't see any reason they don't get in. But they put themselves in a tough spot here, and they could get shuffled a little bit in the regional rankings. They could fall behind DePaul. They could fall behind Trine. They could fall behind Rose-Hulman. Now they're down there with Carnegie Mellon in the conversation I was just having about Calvin. So if I'm Hope here, I think you got to win this one too. So I think both teams need to win it, women more than the men. I'm a little worried about what I'm seeing out of the women. It's almost like they've been coasting so well. Think about it. They lost to Albion 83-77 in overtime. Then they beat Alma easily. They got past Calvin in overtime, then beat Kalamazoo, Olivet, St. Mary's without even having to show up. And then they got trounced by Trine by 17. I'm a little worried about the women's team. So we'll see what happens. But that's my thought on Hope. I think both teams are fine, or I think the men's team is in with a loss. The women's team gets into a little dicey spot. They drop in the rankings, and they're in a tough spot. They still may get in. I'm not looking at SOS numbers off the top of my head. I think they need to win. Calvin has to win, and that's what concerns me. All right, going to take a break. When we come back, we will be joined by our good friend James Wagner, and we will talk about not only the crazy Seesack, but, of course, on top of that, other craziness. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
At George Fox University, our promise is that every student will be known, personally, academically, and spiritually. To be known means professors and staff know you by name. It means you're valued, encouraged, and challenged. It means we'll listen to you and with you as you pursue God's call in your life. At George Fox University, you will never be a number. You will be known. Visit georgefox.edu to learn more.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com. We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. I know we got some questions. I want to kind of go through those. Then we'll talk Seesack. Then we'll bring our friend James Wagner in. If you do have questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com, and join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. I want to point out we got 2 donations to the fundraising campaign. Thank you very much. We're still only 22% of the way to our goal. Any other contributions out there would be greatly appreciated. So please consider doing that. Our links are everywhere for that. Seriously, everywhere for that. So please look into that as you get that opportunity. Again, we'll be talking to James the Man Wagner here shortly but surely. Wags, your video still hasn't started there, my friend. Oh, so anyway, we'll be hearing from him in a minute. So let me get through some of the questions I know we've been getting. So let me see if I just got to click over here and then over there and like hit an update here and then going over here. How many teams could the MIA get into the tournament? How about Hope, Calvin versus Trine? Okay. Andrew, you got a ton of questions, the MIA, buddy. I love it. Very awesome for me. On the women's side, the only way they get 2 in is if Hope loses. And Calvin probably wins the AQ. I forgot about Trine. My apologies. I think the women, there's 2 in, especially if Hope and Trine are in the championship game. Absolutely. Calvin, I think, needs to win to get in. And then in that case, Hope would fall, like I said. Then it gets a little dicey, but then there's a possibility at 3. I don't think Calvin gets in anyway, like I said, unless they get in how I said they did. So on women's side, I think there's a strong chance at 2, but a crazy chance at 3. That's just how I read it. On the men's side, I'm just confirming. I just want to look at the rankings. There's obviously only going to be 1. The only chance they get a second one in is if Hope is upset. That's it. Yeah, there's no other way. So the women's side, there's an outside chance at 3. And when I start talking outside chances, this also starts taking into effect, we don't know how many upsets there might be. We don't know how many teams may fall that are shoo-ins. How many Amherst, how many Tufts, how many others get in that wouldn't have been in. Does that make sense? Or we're going to get in anyway. So I think on that token, on the men's side, it's Hope, unless they're upset, and then it'd be 2. On the women's side, it would be maybe 2. Wags, I can see you, bud, but you're sideways. Yeah, okay, don't love it, but I'll take it. Or there's an outside chance on the women's side of 3. Outside chance of 3 is how I'm going to go with that. If that makes any sense. I hope that does to everybody. So on and so forth. Wags, I see you. We will be with you in just a moment, my friend. Calvin versus Trine. I assume you're talking women. He's got to be talking women, right? Andrew. I'm going to take Trine in that. I think Trine's women's team's a little bit better than Calvin, but that one's a good one, could go overtime. But I'm going to take Trine in that. In that case, it would eliminate Calvin, and thus it would eliminate the chances of 3 teams making it. I think Calvin's got to get to the championship game, if not win it on the women's side, to get all the way there. That's just my take. Let me see if I got any other questions that are flirting around here. Hold on a minute, please. On the Liberty side, Alan asks, on the women's side, RIT currently 6th in the East, will play Clarkson in the title game for the AQ. Thank you, Alan. And by the way, that's the only way Liberty League is going to get a 3rd team or any teams in. RIT is 6. I just don't see any other. They're just not strong enough. So at this point, Liberty League on the women's side is a 1 big lead. And like I said, there's an outside chance the Liberty League on the men's side could easily be a 3-team bid potentially. All right, so let's talk about the Seesack before we lose our minds here. I want to show you the close of last night's game. This is Cabrini versus Gwynedd Mercy. It's at Cabrini. Wags, give me a thumbs up, thumb down. I believe this was 2v3. Thank you. So Gwynedd Mercy's the 3 seed. Cabrini's the 2 seed. There are 2 things I want you to watch. 1, watch the play. It's a long thing. We're going to show you the initial and then the follow-up. But if you, right after the shot, make sure you're looking in the lower left corner. That's Gwynedd Mercy's head coach. Watch him. Watch him. It is worth every bit to watch him. And we'll listen to it live as well. Here you go. Oh, the audio's a little low. We'll try and jack up the audio here for you. Or not. We have a moment to fix it here and get it a little louder for you. as you see the first shot went out of bounds.
1.5 left. They got one more chance to win the game. Cabrini's hype as if we've already won.
That's a little low, so just listening through. The ball's been blocked, gone out of bounds. It's now going to be Gwen Mercy's possession. A second and a half on the clock. Notice coach is in the lower corner there. You see him. And this is how it finished.
Let's hope a defense sticks it out. Goodman, the senior, and it is good.
You watching, Coach? Are you watching him?
Mm-hmm.
You see him going off the screen? I mean, are you watching that? That is one of the best reactions I have ever seen from a coach who has just absolutely been shocked. It's his team, and he's been shocked. I actually texted Coach afterward and said that may be one of the priceless reactions I have ever seen, and clearly he was still getting over it. Now he's coming back, realizes there's hands to be shook. Heck of a finish for Gwen and Mercy. Terrific of them. Gwen and Mercy has a habit of this, folks. Do we have to remind you they have a habit of this? They beat Marietta last year in the first round. They have a habit of this. Hold on, Wags. I'm delaying my time to get to you because I'm trying to call up your shot. They have a habit of this, of doing this kind of thing and defeating teams when it counts. They will now move on to play Newman, who's about the last team, or when it's about almost the last team Newman wants to see. Granted, they just got past the team they absolutely didn't want to see, and that was Rosemont. But they've got a tough one ahead of them here in Gwen and Mercy, and I'm just trying to get a picture here, and then we will talk to Wags, who's joining us via Skype. I just can't figure out where I put a darn logo. This is what happens when you're not feeling well all day. You scramble a little bit at the end. Also, when your production computer takes 20 minutes to boot up. Remember that thing we were talking about to help us out, that fundraiser? Please consider it. All right, here we go. Assistant Commissioner. Here we go. Now I'm getting all the extra stuff in here for Wags, as we'll now go to him, and he now joins us on the City of Salem Hoopsville Skype hotline. Wags, that is what we expect this time of year. Good basketball, exciting basketball, thrill-a-minute type basketball, et cetera, et cetera. However, that is a crazy finish.
It was. I was courtside. I was at the Newman-Rosemont game last night down at Newman. And the way live stats refresh, I was refreshing, and all of a sudden it went to 0. And then you saw Gwennet's score change, and we're like, okay, what happened? You saw Aaron Goodman hit the 3. So then maybe 5 to 10 minutes later, I get an email from Chris Panner, who got an email from Dave Howell at Cabrini of the clip, and then we sent it in the ESPN. But what an amazing finish. I mean, Goodman takes that shot, and you see Taheem Monroe come out right at the end. And, you know, Taheem's 6'9". I mean, Taheem's a big guy. So Goodman got the shot over Taheem to get it in. And, you know, I saw Gwynedd play Monday night against Centenary, New Jersey, and they were down for most of the game. And I'm thinking, okay, is Centenary going to beat Gwynedd? You know, and Gwynedd got it together in the second half and beat a good Centenary team. Tim Fusina does a very nice job up there. So now we've got a Newman team who I thought played exceptionally well last night. Great defensive presence against, like you said, a team that no one wanted to play Rosemont. And because Rosemont is just, you know, what Coach Bob Hughes does with that team, with who he has, what he gets out of those guys. I mean, I was there when they beat Newman a couple of weeks ago, and that was a great win for Rosemont. So they survived Rosemont, but it'll be a good heavyweight title fight Saturday between Newman and Gwen and Mercy.
When we now look at it regionally ranked wise, coming out of the East, out of the Atlantic, Newman went back to number 1 ahead of Ramapo. And then Cabrini slipped to 4.
Yes.
I'm concerned because of SOS numbers, which are hovering in the low 500 range, and I'll call those up momentarily. We'll call up both the live numbers and what the conference, or I should say what the NCAA was basing these rankings on here, so bear with me. Mm-hmm. But based on that, Wags, it almost feels like Cabrini may have lost their chance at getting into the NCAA tournament, and Newman probably feels comfortable with a championship win, but we know how this Atlantic has worked out in the past. I should say, should be comfortable if they lose in the championship, but we know how the Atlantic's worked out in the past. Nothing's for sure.
That's true. Well, I'm looking at the rankings right now, and out of the teams that are still playing, you obviously have Newman at number 1, Ramapo at 2, Jersey City and Ramapo will play tomorrow night, I believe.
Yeah, they're playing tomorrow night.
You have Cabrini, who you said had lost, TCNJ who's lost, Rowan who's lost, Staten Island is playing in the Cooney Championship, and Delaware Valley loses tonight to DeSales in a game that was delayed to tonight because of a power outage on campus. Now you have DeSales playing Misericordia on Saturday for the Freedom Championship. So, you'll probably see Del Val fall out of the top 8, and whoever wins the Freedom just slide in there. So if you look at the top 8, Rowan's of all that group in there, Rowan has the best SOS. They do. Their SOS is very high. And, they gave Ramapo a run for their money the other night. I saw the box score. And if you look at the box score, there are a couple of things that stand out from that. One of which is the 3-pointers that Rowan shot. I think they shot in the 50s. But the foul shots, I think Rowan shot 15 foul shots and Ramapo shot 62. So I know Rowan had a bunch of players foul out, but it was still 110-101. And what Joe Crispin has done in his first year as the head coach, of course, with longtime head coach Joe Cassie by his side, what that Rowan team has done, they've built themselves a good SOS so that in case you have, like we said, let's say Ramapo wins tomorrow, then you have Jersey City in the mix. You still have Rowan in the mix because Rowan does get in there with their SOS. But like you said, I thought that if it was Newman and Cabrini in the conference final that we were going to get 2, because I think Cabrini, if they played a close game and had lost to Newman, they would still be in the conversation right now. But then again, like you said, the Atlantic could be wide open. Now with some of these teams being done, and you never know what's going to come out of the Atlantic. So I think Newman's okay. Even if they would lose on Saturday, I think that they would be all right, and they would still go. But, I had a conversation with Coach Rulo the other day, and I said what you have to think about is that they have these teams that are first in their conference, top in the regional rankings, slotted in that, okay, they're going to make it. And then they lose in their conference title game or they lose in the semifinals. And then when they come back on Saturday night, Sunday morning, they go, okay, now we had this team slotted as an automatic. Now they're in Pool C with everybody else. So I'm kind of interested to see how it's going to shake out. Again, you look at the whole body of work. That's the main thing that people – I'm not telling anybody anything that they don't know. The whole body of work is the same one in Division 1.
You never know, Wags.
That's true in Division 2 and Division 3. You look at Cabrini's body of work of who they played, what they've done in the conference, and what they've done out of the conference. I believe, they had a 1-point loss to Scranton, and Scranton's a very good basketball team. One of their losses, which doesn't count, is to Lehigh. They played right before Christmas, and some of their non-conference wins in there. I don't have their schedule in front of me, and I should know that. But you just never know what's going to happen when you get in that room and you discuss all the teams. Because once you get all the automatic qualifiers through, now you've got that whole group of Pool C's that you've got to think, okay, and you kind of weight common opponents and different criteria, and it gets tricky. It does. Here's
what's going to happen for Cabrini. They know at least one team's going to be ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's obvious. It's either going to be Ramapo or New Jersey City because neither of them, not both of them can win the title. So we know one of them is going to be ahead of them. TCNJ is not going to leap them because TCNJ lost in New Jersey City. There's nothing about their resume that improves. I can't see them jumping over Cabrini. And we know Rowan, Staten Island, Delaware, irrelevant. So Newman may stay ahead of them, and either Ramapo or New Jersey City will stay ahead of them. We know that for a fact. Here's what's interesting. Cabrini's SOS going in to what the NCAA based it on last time was a 522 with a 1-4 versus regionally ranked opponents.
Right.
I will get into this later, but reminder to people, that will change twice.
Mm-hmm.
The committee will vote on Sunday morning. The RACs will vote, and that results versus regionally ranked number will be based on this week. So that's the first number. That time that changes. It will change a second time after the committee tweaks that, make sure that's the final week 4 rankings. They will re-rank everybody based on absolutely brand new results versus regionally ranked opponent numbers. So this number will change, but not necessarily for the better. I don't know if they gain a win. They may not on their resume. I don't think they do. Anyway, their 522, what I was going to get to has gone up to a 530 as of now.
Okay.
Now we'll see what happens. Is obviously the Gwen and Mercy and Newman game will probably boost that slightly more. So they may be a little north of 530. That's pretty darn good. New Jersey City's SOS right now is up to a 518. That's come from about a 480 a couple weeks ago. So New Jersey City's numbers are in better shape. Ramapo has gone south. It was coming up to 500. It went down to 491 as of Sunday. It's now come back up to 496. Ramapo could, I'm not saying they're out, but Ramapo could play a little bit of a block game if they are stuck out ahead of Cabrini. Newman's SOS is now a 507. I'm not really sure which direction it heads. So, yes, there is still a chance Cabrini gets in. The Atlantic looks, Wags, you know this, the Atlantic looks a lot stronger than it has looked in years.
I agree.
Based on criteria. Before anybody misconstrues what I am saying. Based on criteria, the Atlantic looks stronger, but it's not deep.
No.
Cabrini's about the only team that's going to get in as an at-large outside of the NJACs. And if the NJAC doesn't get an at-large, then Cabrini's not getting an at-large.
No. And if you look at, I have Cabrini's schedule in front of me, so let's take a look at quickly at what they've done. They beat Eastern, who made their conference playoffs, who lost to Misericordia. Johns Hopkins, they lost by 3 on the road. That was down in Salisbury, in Salisbury's tournament. And John Hopkins was the 5 seed in the Centennial. They lost. The 1-point loss to Scranton. I think Scranton's in the landmark final. I haven't checked the landmark schedule. I think they are. And then they have the loss to Lehigh, and the only other 3 losses down the line the last 4 are to Newman by 12. That's by 8 on the 5th of January. The 1-point loss at Rosemont on the 1st of February. And then the 4-point loss to Newman last week. And then now you have the 2-point loss to Gwinnett. So it's not like they've gotten blown out. They've had some close losses. So you would think if there's an at-large coming out of the Atlantic, it's Cabrini right now with what their SOS is. But like I said, you throw Rowan in the mix. Look at who Rowan has played. I mean, Rowan has some strong wins. Let me pull up here what they've done. Some of their wins that they've had. They have a win over Wagner, who was number 2 in their conference tournament. They beat Rosemont, who was number 5, made it to the the semifinals. And let's see what else they have. They beat Swarthmore, who is in the Centennial semis. They beat Roanoke. I'm not sure what Roanoke has done in the ODAC. I'll have to look at that. But you look at some of the teams that they've played, and so they do have a very strong SOS. So it's going to come down to if they do take an at-large out of the Atlantic, is it going to be Cabrini, or is it going to be Rowan, or is it going to be Jersey City? So, and like you said, if Ramapo loses in that conference final, then you have to throw Ramapo in the mix, and their SOS isn't that high either. So it's going to be interesting to see on Sunday. The committee's going to have their work cut out for them. And like I said, if things go the way they're supposed to go, when you have Newman winning the Seesack, you have Ramapo winning the NJAC, then it's a little bit easier. But when you have someone who, like I said, who's slotted for an automatic, drops into Pool C, then they consider it. Then it becomes very hard for the committee to decide.
Just for the record, Roanoke's 15-10, 9-7 in conference. They play Emory and Henry at the Salem Civic Center. Game should be starting any minute, unless it's already started, but I don't think it has. Obviously we're getting a little nitty gritty stuff here. It's nice to see the Atlantic in the conversation here. If you are in any other region who's used to Atlantic not getting a lot of bids, tough noogies, they're going to get maybe 1 or 2 this year, which is good. I mean, we're seeing improvements in scheduling. I've seen it out of your conference, Wags, in the Seesack. Certainly that conference has taken it on. We talked to Tim McDonald last weekend or on Sunday about it, and he said, yeah, we have had meetings as coaches, and we talked about everybody from top down has got to improve this. It is clearly what they have done. The NJAC has struggled a little bit still with the concept of scheduling, and I think the middle and bottom haven't been as good this year too. So it's kind of a twofold there. But we're seeing some improvements. The Mac Freedom certainly has done better. The Mac Freedom is pretty competitive this year. It's too bad Del Val's story is going to end with a thud, unfortunately, by the way. If anybody wasn't paying attention, that game is over. Yep. And the final ended up where the heck is my final?
I think it was
79-57. 79-57 is your final. So unfortunately ends of the dud for Delaware Valley, though I think their coach is going to be named Coach of the Year here in the conference. So it's good to see. What's the next evolutionary step, though? I mean, is this now you've got to stick on this scheduling thing? This isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And does the results of what they're seeing now maybe help drive that point home?
Yes, it does. You can look in your body of work, and you can look at what we've done as a conference and what the other conferences have done and going out. Like my former athletic director at Ursinus, Laura Mulliken, who was the field hockey coach, always said you have to stick your neck out there. And she would go out and play TCNJ. She would go out and play Messiah. She would go out and play the tough teams in field hockey. And it's the old adage of the old, I guess, John Chaney from Temple years ago. You know, John would go and play Texas, go play Duke at Duke, go play Indiana. And he would come into the Atlantic 10 tournament maybe with a record of 16-10, and you would look at, you know, Temple 16-10, but they were battle tested and ready, and then, you know, playing these tough teams. And it's the same way in our conference. Like we go out and we play the NJACs, we play the MAC Freedoms, we play the teams in Landmark, MAC Commonwealth, even in the ODAC and schools down there. And you play those teams, and you benefit if you can win those games and boost your schedule, because then when your resume comes up to the committee and you're on the bubble and you're at Pool C, you can say, oh, the committee can go, look, this team went out and played X, Y, and Z. This team didn't go out and play X, Y, and Z. They played teams that they could have beaten easily. The key is to find a good team that you can beat that will do very good in their conference and that will boost your SOS. So I applaud what our coaches have done, and they're going to stick with this, and they're going to, you know, as our other teams start to get better, they will reap the benefits by playing the tougher teams.
Final score, by the way, in women's conference action, as you point out, Christopher Newport defeated York tonight 73-52. That's a pretty big game on the CAC side. No, good points all around, Wags, to say the least. When you guys talk as a conference, if you don't mind me maybe asking this angle.
Sure.
Do the coaches' meetings then translate up to the meetings with you and Adrian and everybody else? In other words, do the ADs and the presidents understand where these coaches are coming from?
I think they do. We have a couple of coaches, a couple of ADs that are coaches, and they understand that concept of scheduling. And I think as we talk to other coaches and we go forward to our ADs and presidents, and like, look, I know that there are budgetary constraints. I know that there are travel constraints. But if you can go out and play these teams in any sport, it does help your schedule, and it also helps the overall image of the conference, that we're going out and we're trying to play these teams so that eventually we will become a conference that people do want to play. Like, let's go play the Seesack teams because they play tough teams. So I think it helps in any conference that you go out and you stick your neck out there. You have coaches and teams that will want to come and play you, or you go play them. And you know, we had a team in our conference play Amherst this year, men's basketball. I applaud them 100% for doing that. You know, you go up and you play a team like Amherst, the experience, and you know, you never know what's going to happen. You go up there and you beat Amherst, and all of a sudden now you're tied into Amherst's SOS, and it's just they're understanding at all sports what they need to do, and I think our coaches do that, and it translates up, and our ADs support it.
Hey, let's take a turn here real quick.
Sure.
I forgot to mention, due to the fact that we got on the air a little late tonight, want to talk about a couple things that hit while my kids were trying to garner my time before the show started. 2 coaching shakeups today. There's already been a bunch of coaching carousels run already, but 2 that hit today. First one, Milliken's men's basketball coach, Matt Nadelhofer, who used to be at Eastern,
yes,
has left. I'm going to look up Milliken. I think Milliken wrote a story, so let me look that up because the wording was interesting.
Okay.
In my opinion. The other one, down the street from you, sir, Muhlenberg's head coach, Scott McClary, has resigned.
Yes.
While I double check the McMillan, here it is, Nadelhofer resigned. Bingo. Your thoughts on, since it's in your neck of the woods, the Muhlenberg men's job opening up. Your thoughts on what that means maybe in the grand scheme of things?
Well, first of all, I respect Scott a lot. I've always liked talking to Scott. I met Scott when he was an NCAA rep when I helped Wagner out years ago, and I believe he was at Marymount before.
Yes.
Marymount, yes.
Yep.
So when he took
Did
over
very
at
well
Muhlenberg,
there.
did very well there, came in at Muhlenberg, did a great job, nice guy to talk to, always, you know, great guy, and I wish him well. I did reach out to their SID, and he said Scott's okay and everything's fine, and he's good, great guy, and he will be missed. Now, that's a very, very good job. I mean, you're in the Centennial Conference, you're in it with a good group of schools, and you're also in the Lehigh Valley. It's a little tricky in the Lehigh Valley because you have Muhlenberg, you have Moravian, but you also have Lehigh, you have Lafayette, and you have all the Penn State campuses that are now starting to pop up and different things. So and you're 90 miles away from New York City. So you're close enough to New York, North Jersey, Lehigh Valley, a hotbed of basketball. You can go north in the Scranton area. You can come south here to Philadelphia. So they've got a great facility at Muhlenberg. It's a great school. It'd be interesting to see who's gonna pop in for that job.
Can I give you the I just thought this one through thought?
Sure.
We mentioned Matt Nadelhofer at Millikan, who is gone.
Okay.
According to the press release at Millikan, has resigned his position effective immediately to pursue other interests. Muhlenberg's press release, just for the record, basically says the same thing. By the way, McClary was 112 and 94 in his 8 years there. Could Nadelhofer be trying to get back to the East Coast?
He could be. Yeah, no.
And is this the job he's looking at?
He may be. It's now you have now you're gonna wait till the tournament's over, obviously, and you try to fill in because now the hotbed of recruiting now is starting to hit. So you want to finish up your recruiting. So that could be a possibility. Matt's did a good job at Eastern, so we'll interested to see how that works up. And there could be some candidates in the area around here that could pop in for that job.
Oh, sure.
Like I said, it's a great school and a great conference. And Muhlenberg athletically does very well. Their women's basketball team is great. Their football team does well. Their baseball teams do well. Like they have some good athletic programs. They've got a great AD. I say that because he's a Susquehanna grad like me. So Mr. Goff is great and what he's done there. So it's a good job. And you are in an area that you can get a lot of attention. And if you do well, you can be rewarded. So I'm interested to see who takes that job. But first and foremost, hats off to Scott, the job that he did at Muhlenberg and what he did with that team. And I wish him all the best. Great guy, and I hope whatever he decides to do, I know he'll be successful. Well, we're going to miss him in the Centennial because he was a great coach.
Point out he was a 94 grad at Muhlenberg.
That is true.
So it's an interesting development. By the way, and back to Nadelhofer, incredible job there in the sense of changing the culture. So I find it surprising there. Other coaching carousel notes, just in case people haven't been keeping track, Elizabethtown's job is open. I've heard some interesting names floated that may be targets there. Goucher's women's job opened up, unbeknownst to me, until I got a random email from somebody.
I know I should have texted you. I think I saw that yesterday. And
I got a text 2 days ago from somebody while I was curled up in the prone position. Like, oh, so what's going on at Goucher? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I have talked to their head coach. Their former head coach says it wasn't the right fit for him. Read into that as you may. Hopefully I can get more out of him that's off the record, maybe down the road.
Right.
So it's interesting that as the season ends, things start going back, start turning full circle. So Chris Panter is watching the show, and I think he's being a little on the sarcastic side.
Why? What is he saying now?
Wants to know about Faber College.
Oh, Faber College.
Gotta love Chris Panter.
Well, one thing that I mentioned to one of our beat writers here in Philadelphia, and maybe some of you maybe are keen to this fact, is that over the next 2 days, starting tomorrow, we will have a significant amount of championships within about a 20-mile span here in Delaware County.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll have the men's championship for the Seesack at Newman. Up the road, Swarthmore will host the men's championship for the Centennial. Up the road, Haverford will host the women's championship. Haverford's in like two different counties. They're in Montgomery and they're Delaware County. They're kind of bridged a little bit. So, and of course, our women's championship, Gwen and Mercy will be hosting Cabrini up in Montgomery County. And, had things worked out, should have, if Del Val would have won, or Eastern would have won, and Eastern would have hosted, they would have been close by. So we could have had a significant amount. We're going to have like 3 or 4 championships within a 20-mile span here over the next 2 days in Delaware County. So that just shows you, the amount of basketball, good talented basketball there is here in the area. And of course, Swarthmore with Landry Kosmowski, what he's done with that program is great. Swarthmore's hosting the men's basketball championship, and Bobby Morgan, what she's done at Haverford. Haverford's turning into perennial power women's basketball. So, it's great to see Haverford and Swarthmore hosting 2 different championships on the same weekend. So it'll be a fun weekend down here in Delaware County.
I want to thank James Pace for a contribution to the Hoopsville fundraiser. Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate that. Gets us to 23% of the way to our goal. So we're inching our way there with 5 days left. Really appreciate him doing that. He calls himself Jumbo's fan. Thank you so much. All right, so Wags, before I let you go,
Sure.
your thoughts on what else is going around the country? Anything that's jumped out at you early on? Anything about the regional rankings that maybe that caught your attention? Something along those lines.
I think the regional rankings, I'm paying attention obviously to the Atlantic and the Middle Atlantic because that's the region I used to follow. I as a Susquehanna alum, I'm concerned if Susquehanna is going to make it or not after losing in the conference quarter semifinals to Moravian. So
semifinals?
The semifinals. Sorry, I guess I'm still stuck.
Now you feel like me.
Yeah, I know, right? Happy birthday, by the way. So anyway,
nice.
I think there's going to be a lot of discussion over the next 2 days about who's going to make it, who's not going to make it. And like I said, the thing you have to watch out for is the upsets. When the upsets start happening, it's the same way in Division I, the same way in Division II. When there's an upset, then everything just gets reshuffled. And the committee, the coaches that are on the committee, the administrators that are on the committee will do a great job. And I'm interested to see how the tournament bracket shapes out. I would love to see, by the way, as much as I'd love to see as many teams in my conference make it, I would love to see Swarthmore in this tournament because I think, Swarthmore men's basketball is back on the map, and Landry Kosmowski has put them back on the map, and we should see Swarthmore in the tournament. But I think it's going to be a great championship game on Saturday for us with Newman and Gwinnett and Mercy. I know Coach Barron will have his team ready, and Coach Rula will have his guys ready, and it'll be a great atmosphere at Newman. They're on spring break, but most of their students are commuters. They'll be there, and they've got a great facility at Newman, so it'll be packed. It was packed last night for the Rosemont game. So, I'm interested to see what's going to happen over the next 2 days and who's in, who's out, and we'll find out Monday at 12:30 when that bracket's released, and then interested to see who is host. I would like to see Newman host in their facility. They've got, like I said, if you've never been to the Miranda Center, it's one of the nicest facilities in Division III. They did a great job when they built it. It's kind of got the pit feature, where I like to call it, where you walk in on street level and walk down to the court. So interested to see what's going to transpire. And maybe you know this, and I apologize. How's Coach Lane doing at Transylvania? I really haven't checked to see what they've done. I kind of follow him on Twitter. I met him at the D3 Classic years ago. Great guy. And how's Transylvania doing?
I'm going to double check that one because I knew the answer as of yesterday, but I want to make sure I haven't screwed anything. They play a weekend tournament, so that's why I wanted to double check it. I think they're done. Nope, they play Rose-Hulman tomorrow.
Okay.
So they're Rose-Hulman. They're at Hanover. Hanover's hosting the quarterfinals and championship. So they unfortunately lost to Manchester in their final game. They've lost 3 of their last 6, but they've got Rose-Hulman on Friday in the semis. So there you go for Coach Brian Lane. Yeah, he's a character, but we love him very much.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it'll be great to watch the basketball the next couple of days. And, of course, I'll be watching you on Sunday as we get ready to think about who's going to be in, who's going to be out. And, this is the best time of the year. And then we get started with the tournament next week, and it's always fun. And for those of you, if your team makes it to Salem, go. The Kerry Harvey Cutter and the guys the staff there, what they do is amazing. And when I was at Ursinus and we made it in 2008, it was a great atmosphere. So if your team makes it to Salem and you can drive there, go. You will be rewarded for an outstanding weekend. And the city rolls out the red carpet, and what the ODAC does and everything else. It's a great time. So if your team makes it, go. I'm hoping one of my teams make it, so I get to make the 6-hour drive down 81 to Salem. But that's a long way away, and we'll find out in the next couple of days who's going to make it.
I agree with you, bud. By the way, our friend, I don't know, should I call him Bobby to you, or should I call him his other nickname?
Barney.
Says hi, says he finds the best ties at TJ Maxx, and sorry he let you down last night.
He didn't leave me down. By the way, Bob Hughes wears his ties better than the President of the United States does. You're not supposed to wear your tie past the belt buckle. Bobby's ties are on point. They are.
Yes.
I mean, we've got some well-dressed coaches in our league. I was up at Gwinnett the other night, and Coach Barron, I swear John had 90 ties behind his door. I was going to borrow one. Like, I was worried yesterday. I had like a purple shirt and a purple tie, and I was like, that looks kind of weird, but it was okay. But no, we have some sharp dressed coaches in our league, and Barney's tie at TJ Maxx. You know, I actually bought a tie at the Goodwill about a week ago, so that's where I go shop for my ties. But and Boscov's is a big place. My wife makes fun of why I go to Boscov's, but I grew up on Boscov's, and it's like a northern Belk. Like, you have Belk down there. Like, I think there's a Boscov's outside. I think there's a Boscov's in the mall at Westminster. So I mean, you know, don't knock Boscov's. You can get a lot of good stuff at Boscov's. I'm saying that, but no. Barney did not let me down. Like I said, what Coach Bob Hughes has done with that Rosemont program, you know, he's the second coach in school history, and they're now the Cozy gym where they had to sell out on Monday night with Immaculata. They packed in 257 in their gym, and that was capacity at Rosemont. But you know what he has done with that program, what he will continue to do with that program. Will be amazing. And I'm telling you, one of these years, Rosemont's going to go undefeated, and they're going to be the number one team in Atlantic, and they're going to host at their facility. And I told Barney, like, hey, do what Temple did. Just you own the air rights. Just build up. Like, put it on top of the old gym. Just build up, man.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Bud. Appreciate you taking the time. We'll look forward to talking to you very soon.
All right, Dave. Thanks for all you do. I appreciate it. And for all you viewers, please support what Dave does here with Hoopsville. And if you can donate a little bit, please do, so his production computer can be better in the future. So
thanks, Bud. I appreciate that.
You
Take
got
care
it,
of
Dave.
yourself.
You bet.
Good night.
Good night.
James Wagner joined us on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline. He mentioned City of Salem there. Yes, they are the sponsor of our hotlines. And, of course, you can get your tickets to the championship. I have a friend of mine from college teammate, who actually mentioned to me he's got a buddy he's going to do a cross-country trip. He's going to mention that weekend to him to come and enjoy the games. We encourage all of you to come and enjoy the games, please. It is well worth it. It is a blast. You should do it. Going to take another break. When we come back, I'm going to go through the top 25 that's already been posted. We're going to go through the regional rankings a little bit. Waiting a little bit to get our next interview, which is coming up. We're going to get the winner of the Salisbury York men's game in the CAC. And last check, well, hold on. Want to go get the box score. There we go. York has come storming back in this one. They were down by maybe 5 or more. Hold on. Let's check here. They were down. Salisbury was up 5, up 6. Oh, I'm in the wrong. I'm in the wrong half. That's why. They were up 6 in the first half, but Salisbury was up 5 with 6:29 left. In the last minute, it has been the other direction, and now York took a 1-point lead. Now it's Salisbury by 2, less than 5 to go. We will talk to the winning coach of that game when we come back. You're listening to Hoops Hope, or not when we come back, when it finishes. We have other things to take care of when we come back. You're listening to Hoops Hope, presented by D3Hoops.com for the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
When George Fox University was founded in 1891, its creators envisioned 2 things: a challenging educational experience and a community where students could deepen their faith. 125 years later, the core of who we are remains unchanged, and our focus on the whole person, our Be Known promise, remains as vibrant and relevant today as it was back then. At George Fox University, you'll never be a number. You will be known.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you've got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. We're certainly answering questions there as well. If you happen to post them there and we catch them, we will do our best to answer the questions. Poskov's and Belk in the Westminster Mall. I have a funny connection to Belk, believe it or not. We'll just leave it at that for another time. I do have some other questions we'll try and get here momentarily. Well, I can answer. Well, no. We'll answer this one without putting it up on a screen. So he says this is a bit of an expansion of the Matt Donahue Catholic situation a few years ago when he was on the regional rack and up for an at-large berth. First off, let's correct the fact. Matt Donahue at Catholic was actually not only on the regional rack, he was the chair of the rack and on the national committee. And yes, Catholic at the time was on the at-large berth. This was a few years ago. This is before the Landmark and the CAC were in one region. This is when they were in two different regions. This is a weird split. With Bobby Morgan as chair of both the Mid-Atlantic and the national committee, and Haverford is the number one seed in the Centennial, does she participate in the Mid-Atlantic regional ranking? We'll start there. Yes, so technically she does. We discussed this a lot, and we'll go in further details here. We discussed this a lot about the fact that there's obviously coaches who are on regional advisory committees. They're also on the national committees, and what happens when their teams are discussed. First and foremost, as I understand it, and unless something dramatically has changed, Bobby will certainly control the call for her rack. When her team is discussed, though, she will remove herself from the call, whether that's just putting herself on hold or muting the call or whatever. She will not participate, just as any other coach who may be on a call may do the exact same thing. So there's so she'll run the call, but when Haverford is discussed, she's not in the conversation. Does that make sense? So other coaches will decide, and here's the real kicker. Or other coaches, other rack members, coaches and administrators. Here's the kicker. When it comes to a vote, they all do it on their computers after the call. So they don't, it's not a call. It used to be a conference call and a vote on that. They changed it about 3 or 4 years ago. They now vote on computer. So yes, she will run the rack call and she'll run the national call. But whenever her team is discussed, she will remove herself from the conversation. The question goes on. If Haverford wins the AQ, will she be participating in hosting and or bracket setup deliberations? All right, so Haverford, just so we know, in the Mid-Atlantic, it's because this gets more complicated. I want to discuss this. Haverford in the Mid-Atlantic is not regionally ranked, and that's why we're not discussing whether they get an at-large. So yes, if Haverford gets the AQ, she will have a role. Remember last year on the women's side, at one point in the call, 4 people were not involved in the call. 4 people. Because their teams were involved. The chair of the committee was Wisconsin Whitewater's coach. They came up as a Pool C early on and were not selected until late. We figured out she spent about 3/4 of the selection call not on the call. That's why we actually had Bobby Morgan at a last minute come on Hoopsville last year to discuss how everything had gone on. Then when it came to bracketing, there were 4 people at one point, again, who did not participate. So here's what how I understand this will be. If Haverford wins the AQ, she will certainly be part of selections because Haverford's not related. If for some reason Haverford were to get to the table as an at-large, and listen, the Mid-Atlantic is so deep on the women's side, there's an outside chance, let's just say that they're sitting at 9th. So Marymount 7, Moravian 8, let's just say Haverford's 9. And because the Mid-Atlantic is so deep, I think there's a very legitimate chance we could be talking about teams off the rankings who get to the table. There's a chance Moravian gets in. I know it'd be, I think, 18-7, which isn't ideal, but let's just say it happens. If her team were to get to the table at the end to be discussed, she would remove herself from the call. Here's where I wish they would do it differently. According to how the women do it, and we haven't had this problem in the men in a long time, so I don't know how they would exactly execute this. But if once they get to bracketing, because their teams are in it, they're out of the call. And here's where I have a problem with that. I understand you don't want favoritism. I totally get that. But we have 64 teams to bracket. In that case, take them out of that quad. And I realize it's not that easy. You're going to have to separate teams and start going. But for example, you're telling me Bobby Morgan could not participate in the section of the tournament that features Whitworth and Whitman, and I'm not Whitworth, but George Fox in Puget Sound, or the Texas schools, or the Central Region schools. She could even participate in the Northeast until it gets into an area where she may be. But at that point, we're so far into the tournament, it doesn't matter. So take these coaches and put them on the call, and put them somewhere where they're not interacting with their team. Now, I understand we can't isolate. Men's lacrosse isolates. We can discuss how isolation takes place in conference bracketing. We can go through that 100 times in 6 ways on Sunday. So if there's now a conversation where you got to move teams, okay, then she removes herself from that part of the conversation. But don't have this come down to 4 people bracketing a bracket when you've got the potential of 8. That, or have a second person from the region who can step in and take the place. I hope they have thought that through. I will hopefully be talking to Bobby Morgan in the next couple of days before they start doing this stuff to get an idea of how they handle it. But yes, last year, 4 coaches were not participating in the call when they were bracketing. And it seems ludicrous to me. If Haverford is in the lower left corner, have Bobby do the upper left, the upper right, or the lower right. At some point, you got to have everybody on board. Just take them away from where they are, where their team is. It has happened before, and I think that's where the problem is. But as far as being part of the call, if their team's an at-large and they're in the conversation, no, they do not take part in the call. Matt Donahue discussed the fact they never got selected. So he left the call at one point and sat there. And sat there. And sat there. He said, I finally got the call back. It was time to bracket. And that's when he knew they didn't make the tournament. So, yeah, it's tough. And that's how they do it, to be fair. I don't think they have to go that far. I get that if you're at the table, you probably shouldn't be participating. I have no problem with that. It's the bracketing side of it that I have a problem with. It really is. It really is. If you've got any questions for us, email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/hoopsville. Email us, whatever it does. We will certainly keep an eye out. Fitchburg men lost. That's a tough loss on the men's side of things. Tough for Fitchburg, to be honest. Checking my email to see if there's other questions that may have come through. Have not seen them as of yet, but we'll keep an eye out for anybody who is asking us questions. We'll do our best to answer the questions when you send them to us. Where was I looking? Oh, scores. Trying to remember what I was doing here. Keeping an eye on the York Salisbury game. The reason we're keeping an eye on this one is the winner of this game will come on our show. Salisbury leads 64-63 with 1:27 left. We will call up the video and monitor that. And when we get the opportunity, we will chime in on that call or chime in on that broadcast so you can see it with us. And we'll see how the game finishes, if it's relevant. But we'll keep an eye out on that game at this time. And again, it is 66-63 now with 1:20 left to go. Salisbury the lead on York. Salisbury, the 20th ranked team in the country. I will say this now. They lose this game to York, they may be out of the NCAA tournament. I think they're already on the bubble. York just hit a 2, by the way, to cut it within 1 with 65 seconds left. But Salisbury fell to 6th in the Mid-Atlantic on the men's side. They're behind Scranton. And Scranton's certainly gotten to a better position, but I'm nervous as heck as to whether Scranton could get into the tournament. To be blunt, I haven't looked that seriously at Scranton. But we'll look at them now. Let's just take a look. Salisbury and Scranton, at least they're close. They're both 19-6 as of the last regional rankings. Scranton was Salisbury was 3-3 versus regionally ranked opponents. Scranton 5-3, and they both had a 524 SOS. I've never seen identical data like that before when comparing teams. The difference came down to the fact that Scranton was 5-3 versus Salisbury 3-3. Salisbury loses this, they're going to fall to 19-7, which would be a 731 winning percentage with a 524. Arguably, they're probably going to be able to get in, but man, that gets nervous. We have so many teams that are going to be in this conversation this year. This is going to be a quagmire at the bottom. I think last year we talked about the possibility of being a quagmire, and it didn't develop as much. It certainly got tough, but it wasn't as thick as we thought. I think this year it very much could be that way, and Salisbury could be in trouble. Scranton doesn't blow me away with their data, but they could easily be in the tournament as well. They beat Susquehanna, so now they're 20-6. Salisbury leads by 2, 25 seconds left. Just had a shot clock violation, so this is going to come down to the end, and York's going to get a look at it. Though they're going to call timeout. We will come back to this in a minute, but it looks like Salisbury missed a shot or had it blocked. There was a shot clock violation. So York's going to have the ball trailing by 2 with 24 seconds left. We'll keep an eye on that one. Again, the winner of that game will come on the show here in a bit. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoops or a hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. You can try the YouTube the YouTube page as well if you want to ask us a question. Please send us our way. We will try and answer them the best that we can. So again, this Salisbury game is big. I think Salisbury, to be sure, needs to get to the CAC championship game, but they're not doing anything very well about it right this minute. They're kind of hurting themselves. We'll look at other scores from around the division as well. We've been keeping an eye on scores all day or all evening to see. There's obviously a lot going on. Whoops, grabbed the wrong thing there. There we go. Nope, that's wrong too. There we go. Sorry, our production computer's having a day. We were meant to take it in to get fixed, and we're unable to on Tuesday. But let's tune in and see what York can do here. You'll hear the broadcast from the Salisbury guys as well.
And what they designed this play to do.
Place is loud and proud here at Mag's Physical Activity Center as the students will on their Seagulls. Wagner with it. Beatty, top of the key. Inside Reich, working against Wyatt Smith. Wagner on the run. Missed shot. Reich rebound. Foul called under the basket from the referee on the near side. 4.9 remains.
So there's a foul with 4.9 seconds left. York had a couple chances there. Salisbury looked like they got at least one or two blocks.
With a 1-and-1 here to try and tie this game.
They're calling this a 1-and-1, so a non-shooting situation.
Couldn't expect any less from these two teams when they go head-to-head.
These two teams have split this season, by the way. York defeated Salisbury last time they faced each other.
Reich hits the first. The big man has been at the line multiple times in the game today. York, 15 of 16 in the game at the charity stripe.
15 of 16, a very impressive number, but now this is the biggest of the game. A make, and it will be tied with 5 seconds to go. We'll see what happens here.
Ties it. 4 seconds left.
Cheer on. Jeter to Whitmer, driving forward. Wyatt can't hit it off the rim after a beautiful set play by Salisbury with no timeout. And we're headed for...
So we're going to overtime. We will keep an eye on this game as we hope to have the winner of the game on the show. We may not go that long to have the winner on the show. We will see. Sorry, just messaging people keeping in touch with us about that game. We'll keep an eye on it. Salisbury and York headed to overtime, tied at 67. We'll keep an eye on it. If we're still in the air, we'll try and get you a guest here shortly when that game concludes. Listen, in any normal year, I'd probably be okay with Salisbury at 19-7. Let me rephrase that. In some years, I wouldn't be, and in some years, I'd be okay. I'm literally on the fence this year. I think it is so tough this year. I got to talk to our guy, Matt, about SOS numbers, but SOS numbers seem to be higher now, so I think it's harder to read. Every year with the committee, they kind of hem and haw over how they do the SOS versus win-loss. And this year, it seems like the SOS has got an important place, but it's not as strong as it has been. Because I think teams with smaller SOS number or lower SOS numbers are going to get a more reasonable chance thanks to their win-loss percentages. That's why I think a win-loss percentage, listen, we've always been told 667, you're not getting in. Last year we saw it at 680, so now you get up near 700, I think is where our bubble line is. You get close to that, and again, if Salisbury finishes this with a loss, they're at 731. You think that's safe? I certainly think it's okay. But they'll be 3-3 versus regionally ranked opponents. That number is going to change as well. That already has hurt them against Scranton, for example. I think a lot of fans at Scranton don't think they're going to make the tournament. There hasn't been a lot of hubbub about it, but I think all of a sudden they've entered the equation. I think they've got a very good chance in the Mid-Atlantic maybe of being a second landmark team. And I didn't think the landmark was going to get a second team this year. At this point, there could be 3 teams from the landmark. Because if Scranton's upset in the championship game, they may have a legitimate chance at 20-7 of getting into the tournament. Especially with a 524 SOS. So I think things have gotten tougher. Speaking of all of that, we will have our special selection show coming up on Sunday. They've just tipped off in overtime. We'll get that to you. We will have that probably starting as early as 4. And we will start with men's selections and then move to women's selections. And we will discuss all of this. And we will make the selections as we see fit. We think, or we know, that the men will have 2 more bids, 64 teams. So we'll have a little bit more to talk about. A reminder on the women's side, there's one Pool B bid this year. There's one Pool B bid this year. That doesn't actually take away any Pool C bids because there's just one less conference bid, if that makes any sense. So basically the GSAC dissolved. They lose that as an automatic bid. So that is pulled out of Pool C or Pool A, and then it's put into Pool B because there's now enough teams to have a Pool B bid. So that's how that is going there. So a little bit interesting to say the least. By the way, another note, I didn't bring this up. We didn't talk about it. St. Thomas now the number 2 ranked team in the country in women's basketball, moving ahead of Tufts. I don't think we got a chance to really talk about that previously. Trying to see if we got any more questions. I'll try and answer those questions when I get the opportunity here. We keep an eye on the Salisbury-York game, and we'll bring you an update when we can. That's women. That's going to screw me up. Number 5, Ohio Northern leads Marietta in women's basketball, 57-45 with 8.5 minutes left to go in the game. Wartburg got past Buena Vista, no surprise there. We mentioned Christopher Newport getting past York. This is women's basketball again. Mary Washington defeated Marymount, number 15 over number 25 in overtime by 2. We'll see if there's other scores. Salisbury leads by 2, but York's got possession less than 4. Back to women's basketball, see if there's any other scores that jump out of us. Texas Dallas, who's the number 2 in the region, won today over Sul Ross State. Wilmington upset Baldwin Wallace 62-59. St. Joseph, who just got regionally ranked this week, not that that has a strong indication, survived Johnson and Wales 91-90 in double overtime. Texas Tyler got past Concordia, Texas, 69-61. Not reading them all off. I'm just trying to find the ones of note. And our friend Ryan, his alma mater women's team lost 75-59 to University of New England. On the men's side, some scores that jump out. Don't forget, we still have Whitman ahead. Christopher Newport should be underway. We haven't seen a score from them. I'll check that. Whitworth will play later, as will River Falls. River Falls should be underway as well, by the way. Marietta's leads Mount Union by 13. Oshkosh is leading Whitewater significantly at halftime. We'll keep an eye on that score. That's significant. Albertus Magnus is going to win easily. Trying to see if there's any other games that jump out at me here. Emory and Henry's having an easy time at halftime on Roanoke, 42-25 right now. Big game, St. John's versus St. Thomas, and the Johnnies leave the Tommies, 43-39 at halftime. We mentioned Guilford winning earlier and Texas Dallas winning earlier. A bit of an upset. Virginia Wesleyan over Lynchburg, 102-93, but they were kind of closely ranked to begin with. Methodist over Greensboro. Hardin-Simmons with a win. We mentioned that earlier. That's a good win for them. We mentioned the DeSales drubbing of Delaware Valley, 79-52. And Washington Lee beat Randolph-Macon 78-67. That is an upset. So Randolph-Macon, remember, in the ODAC, had been leading the ODAC for much of the season. And I've had a few people say they were playing above their heads. They were playing better than expected, almost playing better than they should have been. Well, it comes to a crashing halt tonight as Washington Lee defeats Randolph-Macon in the quarterfinals. So the Yellow Jackets season is going to come to an end. Regional ranked-wise in the South region, Randolph-Macon was 6 at 17-8 as of Sunday. They're not going to get into the national conversation, I don't think, in any way. Concordia, Texas keeps their hopes alive. They're the third ranked in the South region. They get past Texas Tyler by 3. Southern Vermont got another win. That's good for them. Johnson and Wales got upset in the GNAC by LaSalle, 68-61. Keeping an eye on the Salisbury-York game. Salisbury leads York by 2 with 3 minutes left. We'll be back with that. Speaking of what we're talking about with the game, don't forget, in a little over a week, it'll be myself, Gordon Mann, and Ryan Scott in this studio. We will do full NCAA coverage of Friday and Saturday night games, taking you all around the country, not only taking you to great finishes, but also getting you interviews with coaches or others who are at events. We will be setting that all up. That will be here Friday and Saturday for the first time ever. Call it the NCAA Whip Around until we get a better title. We will be right here. We're working on making sure that we can take you to games live like we have been here for the Salisbury-York game, now tied at 69, to give you a chance to see what's going on nationally. It's something new that we're going to try, and we hope to take advantage of it. Believe it or not, we do have a little bit more room in this studio, so Ryan and Gordon will be joining me here. We look forward to that. It is something new, and we hope you will join us on Friday and Saturday for that. Not only games, but we'll also go back to those places to either touch base with reporters for reports on those games or getting interviews with coaches when we get the opportunity. Foul on a shot. York, basket counts, so they lead by 2 with less than 2 minutes to play, going to the line to shoot 1. We will again keep an eye on that one. So you got a chance here to ask us questions. Actually, you know what? We're going to take a break. That's what we will do. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll bring you the finish of the Salisbury-York game. We'll also bring you any more questions that you have. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/hoopsville. You know the routine. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll hopefully get a Salisbury-York coach or York coach on the show, but we'll also answer your questions. You've been listening to Hoopsville. Back with more after this.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
When George Fox University was founded in 1891, its creators envisioned two things: a challenging educational experience and a community where students could deepen their faith. 125 years later, the core of who we are remains unchanged, and our focus on the whole person, our Be Known promise, remains as vibrant and relevant today as it was back then. At George Fox University, you'll never be a number. You will be known.
Cheer for the stumbles, the he shoulda had that's, and the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. We're keeping an eye on the Salisbury-York game. York leads by 3. They have possession. 1:55 left to go in overtime in the CAC semifinals. We'll have the winner of that coach coming on here immediately after the game concludes. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Got a couple quick questions. We'll get to them now. On the women's side, the question is, in the South region, how many ODAC women's teams get in? The only two that are going to be definitely in a good position for at-large are Guilford and Lynchburg. Reminder that the women in the ODAC are not playing today. They will play tomorrow in quarterfinal action. However, let's just take a look at the data from those teams so that we understand their scenario as best we can. So for Guilford, their numbers are 21-3. This was as of Sunday. 2-1 versus regionally ranked opponents with a 501 SOS. That's a little dicey. Lynchburg, in the meantime, 20-5, 1-4 versus regionally ranked opponents, but with a 558 SOS. They're sitting behind a team in Texas Dallas, just to give you some reference. Texas Dallas is 5-2 versus regionally ranked opponents with a 570. Behind Lynchburg is Maryville, who moved up, and that's good for Maryville. I've been saying that Maryville's been in a little bit of trouble here. Maryville is 1-2 versus regionally ranked opponents with a 495 SOS. So let's break that data down. Ahead of them is a strong SOS and a 570. Behind them is a not so great SOS and a 495, but certainly improved for Maryville. So that's a good sign. I would say that the ODAC could get 2 in, especially if Guilford and Lynchburg meet in the championship game, which I believe is possible. I'm saying that a little bit off the top of my head without realizing who's number 1 and who's number 2 in that region. I apologize. My problem with Lynchburg is they're 20-5. This would make them 20-6. Their results versus regionally ranked opponents is not going to improve. Lynchburg is currently 1-4. Guilford's regionally ranked. It would go to 1-5. So yes, 6 teams, but only 1 win. So their SOS of a 558 is nice. I think they get right into that bubble line. Texas Lutheran, who's behind Maryville, Texas Lutheran's SOS it's a 477. So at this point, it's screaming to me that the Lynchburg-Maryville area is the bubble. It's the cut line in the South. I think Guilford's in pretty good shape. Should they get, especially if they get to the championship game, I think Guilford's in. But if Guilford were to lose in the quarters, it might get a little dicier. But that's only their 4th loss with a strong, their SOS is a 501. So they're right in that weird line. So let's say they were to lose in the quarter, then I think they fall behind. Now you got an argument of whether they get in. I think it's dicey. I can absolutely see a scenario where the ODAC gets 2 teams in. I don't see a scenario where they get 3. I think that'd be a little bit crazy unless Guilford, say, lost in the semis and the champion beat Lynchburg, but I still think it gets tight. But I think ODAC could get 2. I think. It's going to depend on how many upsets take place. Listen, we know Amherst and Tufts. Now, I'm not talking about an upset like Tufts beats Amherst in the NESCAC title, because we both know those 2 teams are getting in. That's not the kind of upset I'm referring to. I'm referring, or maybe even Chicago WashU isn't going to be much of an upset. There's other upsets out there that you can point to, go, oh, that takes a Pool C away. That takes a Pool C away. Takes a Pool C away. And in those cases, that's when it gets more tenuous. I think the ODAC may get 2 teams in. Another question we got out of the Great Lakes. This is from Hoops at Dupes. I love it. It says, contribution coming. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for all you do at D3 Hoops. I appreciate the kind words. Can you break down the Great Lakes region other than Marietta and Hope, as you just answered the Hope question? Well, we're obviously talking men's basketball there. We're keeping an eye, by the way, on the Salisbury-York game. York leads by 3, 107 left. It's Salisbury possession. Got to go full distance. All right. So Great Lakes, Marietta's the number 1, Hanover's the number 2, Hope's the number 3, Mount St. Joseph 4, Worcester 5, John Carroll 6, Denison 7, Ohio Wesleyan 8, and Ohio Northern 9. All right, sorry, I got distracted with the York game there for a second. All right, Marietta's a lock. They're into the tournament. I don't see any reason for them not to be. I think Hanover is a lock. I think they're into the tournament. Now, it gets dicey. If they were to lose in the semis, anything's possible. They could certainly fall. But I think they're in. I hate using the word lock, so let me rephrase that. Marietta, I think, is safe. I think Hanover is safe. I talked about Hope. I could see a scenario where they could slide, but I think they're going to be relatively safe. Mount St. Joseph gets dicey. Mount St. Joseph is where my worry is in this region. I think that's where things start to fall apart in the region as a whole. Because Worcester, let's say they lost to the semis, they're 18, or maybe not, but that'd be an 8th loss. I think John Carroll's already lost. They're 17-8. I think John Carroll's chances are gone. I think Denison is at least got to get to the championship game to maybe leapfrog some teams so they have a better win-loss percentage to isolate some things here. Otherwise, I think they're done. Ohio Wesleyan at 19-7 may be done now. Ohio Northern definitely done. So let's look at Mount St. Joseph quickly on the numbers. Mount St. Joseph is 2-1 versus regionally ranked opponents with a 5-10 SOS. The men's SOS numbers have been so strong that I don't think Mount St. Joseph's doing themselves favors. They would then probably be at best 2-2 versus regionally ranked opponents, depending on anybody falls out. Let's say 19-6. I mean, that's a decent it's a decent win-loss, but a really low SOS. Worcester's SOS is a 537. I'm not loving it. Might get down to Mount St. Joseph getting in. I think Worcester, and then John, that's where I think it becomes trouble. If Denison gets to the championship game, and maybe they're there already. I being ill has gotten me a little fuzzy. Denison leapfrogs a few teams here, despite a really bad SOS. By the way, York leads Salisbury by 2 with 43 seconds left. One more free throw coming. It's up and no good, but rebounded by York. I'd love to take you to video, but there's so many fans standing. It's unfortunate. And I realize this is the downfall sometimes with video. As fans stand, you kind of get the game cut off a little bit. And as a video web streamer, I understand that challenge. Denison's SOS is a 466. That's my biggest concern here. I don't know if they can take Denison. Plain and simple. Okay, so let me reevaluate this. Denison doesn't, I'm going to go out and say Denison doesn't get in unless they win the AQ. Okay, so that helps this conversation a bit. So now we move up to John Carroll, Worcester, and Mount St. Joseph. I think the cut line's right around that area. I don't think Worcester, this gets tough. This gets really tough. Worcester is going to play Denison at Ohio Wesleyan. Whew. All right, I'm going to make sure this game doesn't go to overtime. Yes, it is going to go to overtime. It gives me a little bit longer chance here to answer these questions. I think this Great Lakes is complicated. Marietta's safe, Hanover's safe, Hope probably safe, Mount St. Joseph okay. Worcester's going to play Denison in the semifinals. Am I missing something here? Why do I feel like I'm missing something? I'm sorry, Ohio Wesleyan won against Kenyon. Where did I think they lost? This is what happens when you get sick, folks. Sadder part was I was going to have Mike DeWitt on the show today, but I thought they had lost. I apologize. So Ohio Wesleyan's playing Wittenberg. The Great Lakes gets muddy, and I think John Carroll's already out. I think Denison's got to win to get in. Ohio Wesleyan may jump Carroll. Worcester's still got to play. They got to play. Whew. I think it's muddy. It's tough in the Great Lakes this year. This might be the toughest region of them all, and I kid you not. Northeast is tough. Central's okay, but the Great Lakes is tough this year. I think Worcester's got to get to the championship game to have a chance at getting in. John Carroll, again, I think, is out. I think Denison's got to win. Of course, we're talking about Worcester, Denison, and Ohio Wesleyan. So Denison's got to get to the championship game and win it, and Worcester's got to get to the championship game. So that game tomorrow is deciding things. And Ohio Wesleyan probably has to get to the championship game to booster their presence. And by the way, we're going to go to this game real quick before I lose more time. It is tied, and York's got the ball. 12 seconds left.
On the clock. Tie game at 73. Beatty with it. Brooks on defense inside. Offensive foul called against Scamuffo in the paint. Reich would have had a wide open look under the basket.
Big call there, folks. 4 seconds left, and York had a chance at the possible game winner, and an offensive charge is called.
Now 5.2 seconds left, and Salisbury will have a chance to go to the CAC championship here in
Salisbury's got the final shot.
And you drew the comparison earlier, Chris, that Max has not been this loud since the matchup against CNU. Maybe shades of that right here.
Whitmer with it. Crossover. Moving towards the three-point line. It's Borsakowski with the heave.
Oh, he missed
it. And it rims out. We're headed for double overtime here in Salisbury.
And what a story that would have been.
I'm going to be honest. Unless we get a bunch of questions here, I'm not so sure we can get the Salisbury coach on or York's coach on the show. I don't know if I got the energy left. Oh, wow. Double overtime, Salisbury versus York. Got another question. What do you think of the AQ bid for the Centennial Conference Women's? Can the Centennial get more than one bid in the NCAA? I said this earlier. I think there's an outside chance it could happen. But I'm not that confident in it. Quickly back to the Mid-Atlantic. There's no team regionally ranked. So you start with that already. You look at the two teams that got a chance are Muhlenberg and Haverford. Haverford's 19-6, 1-2 versus regionally ranked opponents with not a great SOS at 5-16. Muhlenberg is 18-7 with a 1-1 and 5-10. So here's my point. The Mid-Atlantic women is about the one place I can see the chances of getting somebody off of the rankings at the table possibly get there. I think it happens. But Muhlenberg and Haverford will do themselves no favors. Their SOSs are marginal. The results versus regionally ranked are low in number, and I've noticed that the women really have been appreciating results versus regionally ranked, especially high numbers in that category. Muhlenberg would be 19-8 if they were to lose in the championship game, which is a 700 SOS. Haverford would be 20-7, which would be a 740. Haverford would have a better chance at it, but I think the Centennial Women is a one-bid league this year, plain and simple. I think it's a one-bid league. I just don't see it happening. Oshkosh crushing Whitewater at the half. Our friend noticing that, Ryan. It's actually getting worse. It was 42-26. No, it is getting worse. 42-26 at half. It's now 48-30. Oshkosh leading Whitewater here at the half. If you got more questions for us, I'm debating whether we're going to keep going on this double overtime game just to get a coach on the air. But if you got questions for us, tweet us or message us. Let's see. If for some reason in the men's Northwest Conference, if Linfield upset Whitworth and George Fox upset Whitman and one of those lower seeds takes the Northwest AQ, which they would, I would think 3 teams get in from the Northwest. Yes, I think that's a good bet. I think Whitworth, Whitman, and whoever took the AQ would win. Yep. So would Linfield or George Fox travel to Eastern Quad for the first rounds of the D3 tournament? And I assume Whitworth and Whitman would still stay out west with Whitman hosting the first 2 rounds. The reality is all 3 Northwest teams would stay there. I cannot imagine that they would allow a flight out. And this happened on the women's side before. Here's the thing. We know their flight's going to be mandated. We know at least one flight out on the men's side out of Seesack. We know probably 2 teams in Texas, which either means 2 flights or getting 2 flights there, because I don't see anybody else close enough. That could change. I just don't see the NCAA saying, sure, we're going to take this 3rd team in the Northwest Conference and we're going to ship them east, and that's an extra flight, and we're going to fly 2 more into the Northwest, so that's 3 flights. Doesn't matter. No. All 3 of those Northwest teams are most likely going to end up in that weekend. That being said, if something crazy were to happen and the NCAA approved it, wonderful, then yes, it would happen. But the way this works in D3, the D3 budget's a little bit bigger now. They have 64 teams. There's varying reasons why it's bigger. There's a new Turner contract, which has more money, and the NCAA and the D3 schools are paying more money into it. Sure, there's a chance that the NCAA says, sure, we'll ship one out because it's not fair. But let's be realistic. It hasn't happened on the women's side. I don't see it happening on the men's. I think all 3 end up there. The easiest choice is to take the Seesack team and ship them up to the Northwest. I don't love that. I'd rather send the Seesack somewhere else, and they may send somebody else up to the Northwest. It all depends on who else gets into the tournament. But no, the Northwest is probably going to see all 3 teams sitting there as they go. Alan says, I concur. The ODAC, Dave, the ODAC has a shot at a Pool C bid, but it's not a lock. The results versus regioning for Lynchburg. Yep, Alan, you and I are on the same page about the ODAC women. Don't love it. Don't love it at all. But again, Northwest men, here's the deal. If for some reason George Fox and Linfield were to upset Whitworth and Whitman, I don't see a reason on the men's side. I'm just going to double check it. Yeah, I think those 2 teams are in. I don't see a reason they're not. So that's 3 Northwest teams, and the way the budgets work, let's talk it through. So 1 Seesack team, we know that has to fly. Let's say it's 2 Texas teams and there's nowhere to go, so you got to fly them. So that's 3. To make it work, you'd have to fly the Northwest school. That's 4 flights. You could send the 2 Texas up there. It doesn't matter how you split them up. There wouldn't be more than 4 flights. So on the off chance that they allowed 1 extra flight, sure. And I'm going to hedge my bets because sure, there's a chance. There may be an outside chance they think that's not right and they let them do it. What's the reality and what's been our history? No chance. It's going to be, they're all 3 going to be up there. And someone's going to ship there. It's just the reality of it. By the way, George Fox and Linfield both have to upset Whitworth or Whitman to make this happen. And to be honest with you, only one of them has to upset them and then upset them in the championship game for that to happen. So it doesn't have to be just both semifinals have to lose. It could be both. Scott or Jared, thank you for the kind words, sir. Appreciate that. Looking around, see if we got more questions. Again, email us, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, or join us on Facebook. Oh, Swarthmore men basketball. I knew I missed one. Ken gave us an email. I apologize, Ken. What are the chances of Swarthmore men receiving an at-large bid if they don't win the Centennial Conference? I don't like it. I think they've got a chance, but I'm not loving it. Well, they're 4. They're not horrible. Let's quickly look at their SOS data that at least the NCAA looked at. Here we go. Swarthmore is sitting 2-2 versus regionally ranked opponents with a 523 SOS. Swarthmore is going to get to the table. And the Mid-Atlantic's gotten a little bit deeper than I thought it was going to be. Christopher Newport safe. Swarthmore. Well, hold on. How did I miss? Apparently, it didn't print out all my teams. You kidding me? How's that possible? I'm missing teams 2 and 3. Scranton is 3, Salisbury or 5. Scranton is 5, Salisbury 6, Catholic 7, Moravian 8. Swarthmore sitting 4. 50-50 chance on Swarthmore. 50-50 chance. Yes, Rusty, the Northwest situation did happen on the women's side a few years ago. Yep, we mentioned that earlier. And maybe he's listening on delay. I don't know how long the delays are. There is a chance that the women, it did happen on the women's side, and all 3 of them stayed there. So yeah, that's why I don't think the Northwest will happen. That scenario will happen, but I don't want to rule it out. I don't want to just automatically assume it won't happen. We should probably double check some other scores real quick. I'm just killing time here, folks, in case this Salisbury York team might end, so we can maybe talk about things. Oshkosh is now pulling away more from Whitewater. It is 53-32. Central Region. Whitewater was ranked 3rd with Eau Claire 4th, Augustana 5. That Central Region's getting tougher and tougher and tougher to see it going deep. No, Rusty, no, I don't know. All 3 women's teams in the Northwest situation all stayed in the Northwest. They didn't fly them out. The scenario you're thinking about going to Georgia was probably Whitworth a few years ago on the men's side, but they were by themselves on an island. There wasn't a second Northwest team. And in that case, Whitworth men flew to Emory. You might be confusing 2 years there. So in the Northwest women, there were 3 teams. They all played up there. But on the scenario, I think, going to Georgia, that was Whitworth's men who went to Georgia because there was nobody else up there in the Northwest. And I don't remember all the scenarios there, but that's why they got shipped. It was a weird with the Northwest that year. It also might have had to do with buys and some other scenarios there. And then I don't remember all the details. But no, all 3 Northwest women's teams stayed there. They actually shipped Penn State Abingdon to the Northwest to play George Fox. That's how that one broke down. 79-78, Salisbury leads York with a minute 43. We're hopefully going to get the coach on here momentarily. So there, let's see. Any other questions? Send them to. So Ken, back to your Swarthmore question. I think Swarthmore's chances are 50-50. Am I confusing them with Susquehanna? Yeah, see, Susquehanna is ahead of Swarthmore, and Susquehanna already lost. So let's just say everything stayed even. So Swarthmore is already behind Susquehanna in the conversation. That's where things get a little interesting there in that Great Lake, or in that Mid-Atlantic. Christopher Newport, Susquehanna's 2, Lycoming 3, Swarthmore 4, Scranton 5. That's why I get a little nervous about Swarthmore. If any of them are ahead of them, it's going to keep Swarthmore from getting to the table. I think the Mid-Atlantic could either get tied up and there could be someone who blocks others, or it's going to be a little bit of a free-for-all until it gets down to Scranton, Salisbury. That's why I say Swarthmore is probably a 50-50 chance on that. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to take another break just so I can rest my voice a little bit. I'm still under the weather from being ill this week. We're going to take another quick break. Hopefully we'll get the Salisbury York finish when we come back. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by the WBCA, or presented by D3Hoops.com for the WBCA and ABC studio. Salisbury leads by 2. They're on the line. We'll have the finish when we come back.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Defining moments. Championship dreams. Share the experience with your family and friends. The 2017 NCAA Division III Men's Basketball Championship, March 17th and 18th at the Salem Civic Center in Salem, Virginia. Visit ncaa.com/tickets for your tickets today.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Sorry you got me caught in watching the game there a little bit. 68 seconds left. Salisbury's got the biggest lead that I've seen them have since we turned on the game, but not the biggest of the game. 5 points with 63 seconds left. York has possession, and we'll be going. Just hit a basket actually to cut it to 3, and we'll go to the line here to shoot 1. So they have a chance to cut it to 2. I'm going to make you this promise, and I love the guys. I love Scott Geis. I love Tim Brennan. But if this goes triple overtime, I'm done with my energy. I got to sign off. We will miss out on the interview, and I apologize. Hold on. We may have a change in things on the women's bracket. Hold on. Hold on, folks. We're trying to figure out what's going on. Rusty Egan is our friend here. It looks like he may have solved the problem for us. We're trying to figure it out. So just bear with me here. He may have solved the question that we were having. Well, you know what? In the meantime, let's just quickly go into this game. Leading by 3, York has possession with 24 seconds left in double overtime.
Jeter got a good
It is
break
double
on that
overtime
ball,
despite the
knocking it out of
graphic.
Scamuffo's hands, but tried to sell it to the ref. Could not quite do it, so it's going to be York ball here after the timeout.
Well, of course, they're taking a timeout.
Spartans
so
call a timeout.
we want to have you sit there and enjoy that. Hold on. We're double-checking something, and maybe that I'm completely wrong. So we're double-checking something. You know what? We do have a Whitworth at Emory, Whitman at Lewis and Clark. So lo and behold, there was an occasion where the Whitman women were sent on the road in 2013. So thank you, Rusty Egan, for reminding me of that. Outstanding. So there was an occasion where that happened. I think it was the next year in 2014 it didn't happen. Now remember, right around there is where the budgets got curtailed a ton in Division III. There was a major budget deficit, and they had to ratchet things back. So I almost want to think 2013 might have been the year that things got a little bit loose, and 2014 is the year it got all tight. Now, I could be wrong on that because 2013 was also the year, isn't it, that we went to Atlanta with the championships for the men's basketball. So this gets a little wonky, but I think that's what it did. So 2013, so I'll go back to this Northwest Conference conversation. 2013, they shipped the team out, sent them to Emory. Interestingly enough, Whitworth men did that one year too, but it was for different reasons. 2014, they kept them all at home. So I'll go back to the question we had on Hoopsville. What would happen? You know what? Maybe there is a chance that they could ship one of those men's teams out. By the way, Northwest Conference women could have this happen too, by the way. We'll see what happens tonight. Whitman's taking on George Fox. If Whitman were to beat George Fox, I think there's a chance that 3 teams could get in again. There's another factor. Rusty Egan points out they already had to send Trinity, Texas somewhere. Yeah, my only problem with that is that's still an extra flight. It's still 3 flights instead of 2. So they could have sent a Trinity to Emory. You know what I mean? So, yeah, interesting. Daryl Duncan says, and yeah, 2014, my Whitworth women upset George Fox and Whitman to take the AQ. Then all 3 stayed at home out west in the first rounds of the tourney. You're right, Daryl. But again, as Rusty just reminded me off air, in 2013, they didn't do that. But I have a feeling, because I remember 2014 not being that surprising that they didn't do it. And I think it's because 2014 really, the budget got curtailed a ton, got really tightened up, especially in 2014 and then into 2015. York misses another free throw. They trail by 3. I think they missed 2 there with 22 seconds left. So Salisbury's marching down to shoot free throws. We're basically dragging our heels, hopefully, to get an answer from or get a coach on the show. So here's it is. Last chance to get questions to me. Either email them, hoopsville@d3hoops.com, tweet them at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville, or on Facebook Live especially. Message us. This is your last chance to get them to us as time is running out. So, Daryl, we apologize for the confusion. Here's what we're going to say. In 2013, the women, they did send somebody out. In 2014, they kept everybody home. Could they do that on the men's side per your crazy idea of upsets? Sure. The budget's a little bit looser. It would mean a 4th flight most likely. There's an outside chance they could ship them. There really is. It also depends on what else happens. If they get enough teams in Texas that they can send just one team there and they only need to send one team up to the Northwest, maybe not. Or maybe they'll allow it because they can send. It gets tricky. Let's say we hold out hope. Let's hold out hope. And I think it could happen again on the women's side, that they allow them to fly them somewhere. There's a chance. I don't sit on that side of the fence because I've seen the NCAA have to keep people at home too often. But we are now with a little bit of a bigger budget. We've seen some signs. Football had some signs of a little bit more leniency when it comes to flying. Football is one of the most expensive to fly. So we'll see. Anything is certainly possible. By the way, Salisbury went 1 for 2 at the line. They now lead by 4 with 18 seconds left. We'll go into that game in a moment as there is a timeout. So last chance to get us questions. A reminder, Sunday we'll be on the air at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We may change that to 5, but I highly doubt it. We'll probably be on at 4. Kind of start getting through things, and then we'll start doing our selections with the men probably around 5-ish, maybe a little later, and then we'll transition to the women around 7 or a little later than that. Hopefully we're not on the air much later than 10. I should probably tell you, the brackets will be coming out at 12:30 next Monday. Will be the 12:30 Eastern time will be the men's bracket. 2:30 p.m. Eastern time will be the women's bracket. They are announced on NCAA, but we will have the links and the videos at d3hoops.com. And I am proud to say that I will be the analyst for that once again from the Hoopsville studios. I will also add this. In over a week, the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, we hope you'll tune into us here at D3 Hoops. Ryan, Scott, Gordon, Mann, and others will join me. Those 2, though, in studio. And others from around the country will join us as we do a whip around show. We will go to where the games are. We will bring you to those games. We will bring you reactions to those games. We will do our best to cover the division almost in an NFL Red Zone-esque style. And we hope you'll tune in for that. That's next week from, literally a week away, Friday and Saturday. And then championship weekends are in Grand Rapids and Salem. And I am proud to say, as Salisbury hits a basket to go up 6, I think this game's over, but we're going to tune in there just in case.
3 hits the rim, nearly going
that
out
looks
of
like the
play.
game is pretty
We're
much
trying to
over,
keep it
and it's
alive.
going to be
Jeter
over.
swats
So
it back
Salisbury's
into
going to
play.
win. We'll
5
just watch the
seconds left.
celebration
Seagulls up
here.
by 6. Westner driving in, can't get the bucket.
So
The ball
Salisbury
falls, and the
survives in
Seagulls
double overtime,
survive,
86-80.
and will
We'll
advance
hear
to the
from Andrew
CAC
Sachs
Championship,
very, very
86-80
soon
in double overtime.
here on Hoopsville. Anyway, I am proud to say that we will be, that I will be in Salem once again and on the calls for NCAA.com there's been a development, might be doing more than what we have done in the past. That is something we are looking to confirm before we get too excited with ourselves, but looking to mention that a little bit later. But stay tuned, but we'll have all that. Plus the Hoopsville pregame and postgame shows will certainly be taking place out there as well. If you are in Salem and you're coming to Salem, please let us know and wave your hands and say hello. Also, if you are a head coach going to Salem, look for the NABC information as to when we will be saying hello to you on our usual efforts as well. We will be hearing from Coach Andrew Sachs shortly. I don't want to take our commercial break too soon. So again, if you got questions, please let us know. Who is the adult beverage sponsor of the Hoopsville Red Zone show? I don't know, Chris. We should find one. But considering the NCAA may embrace it, I would gut feeling tell you we can't have one. But we shall see. So Salisbury moves on. We think they're going to take on Christopher Newport. That Christopher Newport game may be done by now. I'm going to double check it, though. Let's see here. We will double check the score out of Christopher Newport and Marymount. There we go. So, again, congratulations to Salisbury who move on. They will take on Christopher Newport. Our graphics are going to say it too, because Christopher Newport leads 62-38 on Marymount with 8 minutes left. That would be one of the most incredible comebacks in any history whatsoever. If they were to come back, Marymount that is, and beat Christopher Newport. So we'll hopefully be hearing from Coach Sachs momentarily, but we will take a break before we do hear from him to set that call up. So basically here it is. We're going to talk to Coach Sachs about this game, Salisbury versus York. So you're going to get a chance to get any questions that you have in at the end. Please email us, tweet us, or Facebook Live us. We'll answer those rash of questions at the end before signing off. After Coach Sachs' interview, we'll answer those questions and then sign off for the night. Again, last chance to get questions in. We'll hopefully hear from Coach Sachs sooner rather than later. All right, we're going to take a break. When we're actually going to take a break. When we come back, Coach Sachs of Salisbury will join us. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and NABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
At George Fox University, our promise is that every student will be known, personally, academically, and spiritually. To be known means professors and staff know you by name. It means you're valued, encouraged, and challenged. It means we'll listen to you and with you as you pursue God's call in your life. At George Fox University, you will never be a number. You will be known. Visit georgefox.edu to learn more.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
We've got more schools than Division.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this extended version of the show. Not what I had planned due to the week I've had, but a great night of basketball nonetheless. One of the most thrilling events definitely had to be the Salisbury finish against York. Double overtime. These two teams certainly know each other well. They split the regular season. York's certainly not a bad team. We told you they would be a tough team, but they aren't the same team we expected. But Salisbury prevails 86-80 in double overtime at home to advance to the championship game. We presume against Christopher Newport, since they have such a handy lead over Marymount at this point. And joining us on the City of Salem's Hoopsville hotline is Andrew Sachs, head coach of the Salisbury 20th-ranked Seagulls. Coach, welcome to Hoopsville, sir.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to talk to you again.
Great to talk to you. I said on the air, though you don't know this, if you guys had gone to triple overtime, I was going to say, forget it, we're going home. You can enjoy the last 5 minutes, and we're going to be by ourselves. I mean, obviously you knew York was going to be a tough test. They had beat you the last time out.
Yep.
You're a little bit banged up. We'll talk more about that in the long run. Yep. This, from what I was watching, was one heck of a game, though, against two teams who just didn't want to quit.
Yep. I mean, it's a typical conference battle. You're playing somebody for the third time in the season. They've done a really good job, without Dalton Myers. They've spread the floor out, and Scamofo and Wesner banged some threes for him, and Reich's really taken, it's kind of like, also last year when Wyatt went out, Jeter stepped up a lot. Reich's done a really good job in Myers' absence. So, they're going to be one of the teams to beat in the league next year. They get pretty much everybody back but Wesner. So when Dalton Myers comes back, so it's a good win for us. Whitmer came back, for the first time in 2.5 weeks. He sprained his ankle really bad against York the last time and played him early in the first half. So, he just lends us, some stability at the guard spot where we're playing a lot of freshmen. That right now it's do or die for us. You know what I mean? And it was great to have Justin back, and Jack Ferguson, a sophomore, really stepped up for us today and played a lot of quality minutes. So I'm very pleased with our performance.
Yeah, you talk about Whitmer being injured. I know Jeter's been banged up. A lot of the other guys have had to transition. When we saw you in Vegas, you were looking for a new point guard. In some ways, it's almost been a point guard by committee. Whitmer, as you point out, got injured the last time you guys saw York. So he's back, but he's not even at 100%.
No, he's not. But I tell you what, he gutted it out. He just does so many little things for us. He's had such a great year. Because last year basically he was a 3-point shooter and a layup guy, and he's really expanded his game, and he's got better defensively. I mean, he's had a really hell of a year for us. He really has.
I feel like you guys have been a little bit on the knife's edge. York beat you back on January 14th. Christopher Newport beat you again, but then again, you two have split, so not a big deal. But you barely get past York the next time around. Southern Virginia kind of gives you a nail-biter. Then you lose back-to-back on the road, St. Mary's and Frostburg to close out the regular season. As you said, kind of a must-win tonight. You guys have your backs against the wall, and I don't think you really felt you would get to that point when I touched base with you mid-season.
No, I mean, we had a 17-point lead against St. Mary's in the first half, and it wilted away. And we had a 24-point lead against Frostburg, and it wilted away pretty quickly. And, we turned the ball over a lot, and he gave up easy baskets. I mean, so we certainly had plenty of chances to close those games out. We didn't do it, so we put ourselves in this situation. But, like I told you earlier in the year, Dave, I thought we played a really competitive schedule. We shot 44% from the free throw line against Ramapo and lost by 1. We played a really good Hardin Simmons team. Is one of the better teams that we played in my 2 years here, and we had a second-half lead against them, too. I mean, there's, in all of our losses, we've had at least a second-half lead in every game. So, no one's really come in and blowing us out. So, we've been in every game, and we'll probably expect a big game in Christopher Newport for the third time, again this year. So we're looking forward to going down there.
Do you have to say anything to the squad to make them understand what the stakes are? That, listen, you probably had to make
it from day one, man. I knew. To me, in my opinion, I thought 21 would be the number for us, especially taking 2 losses out in Vegas. Now, we may get in with 20. Depending on things break right, because our SOS will go up with Newport. Obviously if we win, it could get the automatic. But York's 18-8, 18-9. I mean, they're pretty good. They've beat some good teams this year too, and their losses have been pretty good. So, I thought our schedule was good enough. We have some quality wins, against regionally ranked opponents. And, I think, we're certainly one of the best 64 teams there. So, especially when we're 100%. So, which hopefully will be, by next week.
What do you tell the team ahead of tonight's game with that 2-game losing streak coming in?
Must win. It's a must-win Saturday. I can't, we're 6 in the region, and you just never know how things break out. I mean, you've been doing this a long time.
Yep.
I mean, if there are upsets, and then teams are in front of you that win, I mean, you don't know if you're going to get in or not. You try to put your team in the best position you can by putting a schedule together where, you hopefully get some wins against really good teams. You play some road games against good teams to get some wins, playing tournaments against good teams to get some wins, and then you got to do well in your conference. So, last week was, a tough week for us, to be honest with you. I mean, we had the 2 huge leads that we blew, and, we just, we survived 2 games without Whitmer at home, and we didn't survive them on the road. So we put ourselves in this situation. So we're just going to try to do our best on Saturday. And if we win, great, we get the automatic. If not, we hope our body of work throughout the season will get us in the tournament.
Wyatt Smith continues to lead the way at 15.5 points. Barsakowski, the junior, 12 points. Whitmer, who you point out has been injured but back, he's averaging 12 points. And Jeter, the senior, at 9 points. By the way, 3 of those 4 are seniors. How much have you had to ride those guys, or have you been able to find guys deeper in the bench you've been able to step up?
I rode them a lot, Dave.
Yeah.
Pretty good players. I rode them a lot. But, I mean, we've had different guys. I mean, the last time we played York, Trey quickly had a great game, had a double-double for us. Jack Ferguson had a great game for us tonight. He's hardly played all year. He's had a hamstring injury for about 5 weeks. So, that certainly helps us. Nick Giddings has had big games for us, freshman. Al Leader, our freshman point guard, has had some big games for us. So, but those 3 have to be the constants. And, how well we do and how we perform, if those 3 guys play well, we're pretty good. And that's the way it's got to be.
I mean, it looks like it's going to be Christopher Newport. I mean, they were blowing out Marymount the last time we checked, so we're going to assume that. You certainly know each other well. The last 2 seasons, it's been nip and tuck. It's been nip and tuck for this season as well, down to the last shot in both occasions. Whether you win or lose and get in the tournament, to get in is not my point, but just out of curiosity, so you can win the conference title, what do you think you need to do to beat them, especially at their place?
Well, we need to play great defense, which honestly, our defense has really slipped the last month. We were top 5 in the country for a couple months there. It's gone down. But the 2 times we played them, we've held them under 40%, really under 36 both games. But they've also done the same to us. I mean, you're going to see 2 really good defensive teams. China does a great job. And, we got to control Daly, which we did well the first game that we beat them. You heard us a little bit in the second game. Carter hit a big 3 on us. And, Reginbald hit a lot of big threes against us in the championship game last year. And, Ray Sharp Browns play well for them. They got a really good mix of kids. And, if we can get them in foul trouble, I think that will really, really help us because we want to get into their bench.
What was the key tonight?
The key tonight was going inside the Wyatt and playing around him, and we got Jeter involved early in the game, and really the key was getting Whitmer. Once he got loose, he got 2 fouls early, so he only played 8 minutes in the first half, but he had a really good second half for us, and Wyatt fouled out in overtime, and Barry Bratton stepped for us, another guy that came off the bench for us, had some good games. But I thought we did a great job on the boards tonight. I thought really in both overtimes we played really good defense, and we did a really good job on Scamuffo. Scamuffo had 35 against the last game, so we really limited his looks.
I feel like Whitmer is the key because when I saw you against Ramapo and I saw you against Hardin Simmons, that's where you guys struggled.
Right. Yep. He is the key. I mean, again, I'm not taking away from any of those teams. I mean, he was yakking it up, against Hardin Simmons, that game. And, it was tough for us. He's got to play well for us. And he even said, he goes, Coach, if I don't play well, I don't know how good we're going to be. I said, no kidding. So you got to play well, But, Leaders had some good games for us, but he's a freshman.
Yeah.
And you just never know what you're going to get. And, we got guys that have been here for 4 years, and, Wyatt's been here for 2 that have had great careers, and I want them to go out as winners. And they're great kids. They've been great to coach, and it's a great culture here. And they're fun kids to be around, and we had a great crowd tonight, so it was fun, and we expect a great crowd at Christopher Newport on Saturday.
A couple quick more questions, and I'll let you go. Did you ever think at any point tonight the game had slipped away? There were a couple close chances at the end of regulation and the overtimes.
I think when we got down 4 in the first overtime, I thought was, they fouled us, with some rebounds and trying to outlet the ball, which put us to the foul line, which helped us out. And again, for some reason, we're a really good free throw shooting team. We did not shoot free throws well tonight, which is rare for us at home. So we didn't shoot free throws well, Frostburg.
It was I can't remember who it was. One of the players for York had a wide open layup and got called for an offensive charge. How big a call was that one for you guys in overtime?
It's big. It was big, but he did it. So you try to again. Our kids did a really good job defensively. They got another call in the overtime where they had a moving screen. Where they were trying to. It was a counterplay to their thumb up play where they screen down for scrum up and they post up the big kid, and it was basically a reverse. The guard to screen for the big guy to try to slip it, and he moved. So it was the right call. But we've officials, you don't want them to determine the game. So
sure.
But we put ourselves in a position to win it. Did a good job, and we're playing on Saturday. This time of the year, it's survival, man.
Oh yeah,
it's all about survival.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you coming on. Please tell Tim thank you as well.
Again,
and always
great to talk to you, buddy.
Yeah, I was going to say it's good that you're talking to me tonight, right? Versus not talking to me. But as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts for those tuning in?
For those tuning in, if you had to watch the game on video tonight, it was a great game. This is a great time of year in Division III with a lot of teams playing for titles, and I've been lucky enough to coach at every level, Division I, II, and III, playing in the NCAA tournament, something kids never forget, and we hope to put our guys there hopefully next week.
Very well said, Coach. Good luck on Saturday, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Take care. Andrew Sachs joining us from the 20th ranked Salisbury Seagulls. They defeated York of Pennsylvania 86-80 in double overtime tonight. Just game ended. That's why we're so late on the air here. But a big win for them. They needed that win to really solidify their chances at an at-large. I think a loss there would have hurt them. Getting the championship game, I think, gives them in good shape. And I think it makes the Mid-Atlantic a little bit deeper than we thought it was. The regional rankings are going to be fascinating. And yes, reminder, we will see the regional rankings on the other side of the brackets, but we will not see them before the brackets. So we still going to have to figure things out a little bit blind. But we will see them at the end. We'll get an understanding of how everything translated. A quick reminder, we will remind you this on Sunday as well. Here's how this works in the regional rankings. The RACs will get together on Sunday morning. Not all games are complete. We understand that. Basically, they kind of set up some scenarios. But the regional rankings are done in the morning, and then the national committee looks at those regional rankings and makes any adjustments that they deem fit. And that happens every week. They make any adjustments they feel need to be adjusted. So then they readjust it, and there, boom, we got regional rankings for the week 4. Then the results versus regionally ranked opponents is recalculated based on the now current regional rankings. That way the data is as up to date as possible for the committee. The committee then goes back to those regional rankings and changes things again. Okay, so let me remind you, the RAC gets together Sunday morning. They eventually come out with a regional ranking. Now, there may be some qualifiers there based on any other results that might take place. There are more and more title games being played on Sunday, so this is starting to get muddy. But that's what they do. The National Committee, as they always do, then has a call later, looks at those regional rankings, and makes any adjustments they feel necessary. That happens every week. Here's where it changes. They then recalculate the results versus regionally ranked opponents based on the new rankings so that all of the data is current. Remember, results versus regionally ranked in the past is always based on the previous week's rankings. This now updates it to the current rankings. Then the National Committee, using that data, confirms that that's the rankings they want or makes another set of adjustments. Removing teams, adding teams, whatever the case may be, based on that new criteria in case it changes the complex and the conversation. That is called the selection rankings, which are the final rankings, and those are the ones we will see after the brackets are announced. Again, brackets announced at 12:30 Eastern Time p.m. on Monday. I can tell you now from experience that those brackets are done far sooner than that, and the show is put together sooner than that. The women's then is done at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And those are how those are done. So this is the last chance for questions or anything along those lines. We are now perusing to make sure we're not missing a question. If you have a question for us, we'll answer it now. Otherwise, we will be back on the air Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Is where we're looking at. 4 o'clock Eastern Time at this point is where we're looking at things for starting our Sunday show to do our own mock selections. A reminder then, the selections will be followed by bracketing on d3hoops.com as well. So again, just double checking to make sure we don't have any other questions of people who may just have some. I know Chris is fascinated to know what's in the Dasani cups. Where do I have Dasani cups around here? Oh, he's probably referring to the NCAA stuff. Fair point, Chris. Maybe we should get some Dasani cups for the studio. So that's going to do it. Looks like there is no other questions. Really appreciate it. We will obviously be taking a ton of questions on Sunday's show. But if you have questions before then, you can email us or tweet us or whatever the jazz. That's going to do it for us. I want to thank Tim Brennan at Salisbury, especially for getting Andy Sachs on the show. I want to thank Scott Geis, who was also on standby, for getting Coach Matt Hunter in case York had won that game. Also want to thank Eric McDougall. Jeez, I'm how sad is that? I'm making up names of a very famous sports information director at York. Jeez, now you can tell I've been ill this week. My brain is fried. I want to Eric McDowell at Union. Sorry, Eric, I know you so well. But thank you for getting Chris Murphy on the show. Thanks to Wags for coming on the show, and thank you for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. We're going to sign off for the night. We'll be back on the air Sunday. As I said, whoa, hold on. Might have gotten one more question. No, we did not. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate the time that you took. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you here on Sunday. Hopefully we'll be a little closer to 100% when we do. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. From the WBCA and ABC studios. Thanks to D3Hoops.com for their support, along with the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Also want to thank George Fox for their advertising, and others of you who've donated to the Hoopsville fundraising campaign. There's only a few days left. Any little bit makes a large difference. Also want to thank the City of Salem, sponsors of the hotline, but of course, Men's Basketball Championship tournament sponsors, along with the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. Please go to Salem and enjoy some basketball. We'll be there with the show. Let us know if you're there as well. Good night, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday.